Chapter 230. At noon a month later, at the gate of Yanmen of Zhao Kingdom, all the officers above the rank of general gathered at the gate to welcome Li Mu. At noon, a cloud of dust appeared in the valley south of the gate of Yanmen. Soon, a team of hundreds of cavalrymen escorted Li Mu to the gate of the camp. Li Mu was riding on a tall red horse. He had a long beard and was wearing armor. He controlled the reins with his left hand. His eyes were as calm as the sea. He had a special temperament. No matter how manic a general was, he would calm down when he saw him. "Greetings, General." When the generals and officers at the gate of Yanmen saw Li Mu, they all bowed to him. Li Mu jumped off the horse and glanced at the faces of the generals and officers who greeted him. He seemed to be confirming and looking for them. These faces were not unfamiliar to Li Mu. They were all his old subordinate. "Are these the only ones left?" Li Mu sighed softly. Only after hearing this sentence, many valiant generals' eyes turned red as they shed tears. Some of them even lowered their heads out of shame. Who said that men did not cry only because they were not sad? When Li Mu was in the gate of Yanmen, there were almost 180,000 soldiers and cavalrymen in the camp. It could be said that the soldiers were strong and the horses were strong. After a few years there were less than 100,000 soldiers. More than half of them had been lost. When Li Mu was there, many generals and officers under his command were quite critical because Li Mu avoided battles. They did not agree with Li Mu's way of doing things. In the gate of Yanmen, some people even gave Li Mu a nickname, General Coward. When Li Mu left and King Zhao replaced him with General Fierce, these generals and officers really understood Li Mu's good points. General Meng had been in the gate of Yan camp for many years and had never shied away from battle. Everyone in the gate of Yan camp had become General Meng's pawns and cannon fodder for General Meng to win fame in future and King Zhao's recognition. General Meng knew how Li Mu left, so he only paid attention to what that person in Handan City thought of him. Since that person in Handan City wanted to fight, then he would fight. As for the life and death of the soldiers, how could there be no deaths in a war? After a few years, General Meng left the gate of Yan unscathed and returned to Handan. Most of the soldiers in the camp at the gate of Yan had turned into white bones under the yellow soil. Now that they saw their former commander-in-chief again, the soldiers in the camp all had complicated feelings. They were sad and ashamed, and they were indescribable. Li Mu walked through the gate of the camp and led the generals directly to the main tent of the camp. He sat on the commander-in-chief's seat and showed everyone the tiger seal that Lord Zhao gave him according to the procedure. Then, in the respect of everyone, he officially sat on the main seat and began to take charge of the gate of Yan. On the main seat, Li Mu's eyes flashed. His gaze swept across the faces of all the generals on both sides of the tent. "Pass down my order. From now on, without my order, anyone who dares to go out and fight the Xiongnu will be killed." Li Mu's first order was still the same as before. They were not allowed to fight the Xiongnu. When they heard Li Mu's order, everyone in the tent was shocked and obeyed in unison. "This time, Lord Zhao has handed over all the tax and financial rights of the gate of Yan in Dai County to me. These tax and financial rights will be used to reward the army and raise the soldiers. As usual, I want all the soldiers in the army to have the meat of cows and sheep in their daily meals. If any of you dare to eat less, it will be the same as scraping my flesh and bones. I will kill you." The generals in the tent bowed again and obeyed. After giving 2 orders and having a few words with the generals, Li Mu asked the generals to disperse and return to their respective camps after learning about the situation inside and outside the gate of Yantai camp. Then, he led a few generals and began to personally inspect the situation inside the gate of Yantai camp. The situation inside the gate of Yan was not out of Li Mu's expectations. At the moment, there was a shortage of soldiers in the camp and morale was low. Everything had to start over and slowly accumulate. Li Mu patrolled in the camp and unknowingly came to the wounded camp. Li Mu was very clear about the situation of the wounded soldiers' camp. However, when Li Mu came to the wounded soldiers' camp this time, he was shocked by what he saw. Before he reached the wounded camp, Li Mu heard a burst of cheerful and passionate singing coming from the wounded camp. Someone was singing with the wounded soldiers in the wounded camp. Outside the wounded camp, Li Mu heard a voice. "Come, everyone, sing with me. This is the melody, 1, 2, 3, rise. Solemn rabbit, ding ding ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are in charge of the city. Solemn rabbit, ding 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 ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are vengeful. Solemn rabbit, ding ding ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are loyal. Old Black, the second line, you're out of tune again. Can you not be so loud when you're out of tune? If you sing like this again, I'll punish you to face the wall today. Ha ha ha, I think it's more exciting to sing like this. Next time, I'll lower my voice." A weak voice said. Ha ha ha. More people laughed. Okay, one more time. This time, pay attention to the melody. Don't go out of tune again. Many people in the wounded camp were singing along, which sounded quite interesting. The general next to Li Mu was about to send someone to pass the message. Li Mu gently waved his hand and walked to the wounded camp. As soon as he entered the barracks, Li Mu found that the ground of the wounded soldiers' barracks had been leveled. It was no longer full of potholes as before. Not only that, neat ditches had been dug around the wounded soldiers' barrack. The waste water in the barracks flowed out from the ditches. It was no longer as filthy as it used to be. This was only the surface. When he entered, what he saw was another scene. The walls of the rooms in the wounded soldiers' barracks were painted with lime. It was snow-white and looked very eye-catching. The rooms of the wounded soldiers were clean and tidy. They were even cleaner than the barracks of the normal soldiers. Some ropes were tied to the open space in the south of the wounded camp. Strips of linen were hanging on the ropes to dry. In the open space where the linen was drying, there were dustpans and straw mats, on which were various kinds of medicinal materials that were being dried according to their categories. In the kitchen of the wounded camp, there were several big pots, and the smell of boiling medicine came out. In the large open space in the middle of the wounded camp, more than 1,000 wounded soldiers were singing under the sun. There was a relaxed and happy smile on the faces of the wounded soldiers. A young man in his 20s was teaching the wounded soldiers to sing to the beat. In addition to these people, there were more than 100 people in white linen sleeves who were busy in the wounded camp. Some of those people were processing medicinal herbs, some were washing linen and preparing to dry it, and some were boiling medicine in the kitchen. Even those who were working in the wounded soldiers' barracks were in high spirit. As they worked, they listened to the wounded soldiers singing in the distance and hummed along with them. Such a wounded camp was full of vitality and joy. Li Mu had been in the army for so many years, but he had never seen such a place. Li Mu looked outside the circle and blinked his eyes. He almost thought that he was seeing things. "Who is that young man?" Li Mu pointed to Xia Pingan in the crowd and asked the people around him. With Li Mu's eyesight, he could tell at a glance that the young man who was teaching the wounded soldiers singing was the soul of this camp. Those wounded soldiers looked at the young man with light in their eyes, and those who were busy around him looked at him with respect. Reporting to the general, that person is called Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan used to be a ranger of the gate of Yanmen. He met an extraordinary person in the mountains and was imparted with superb medical skills by that extraordinary person. He is brave and valiant. He was once shot by 2 arrows and killed 4 Xiongnu cavalrymen. Last month, when this general went out, I found him and saw him treat my wounds with silver needles and identify the medicinal properties of the wounds. This general then brought him to the camp and put him in charge of the wounded barracks to treat the wounded soldiers. After he came to the wounded barracks, no one else died in the wounded barrack. He, Once that Xia Pingan came, the wounded barracks became very lively. Lu Qi explained. How could it be just impressive? Li Mu thought, aren't there 3 wizards in the wounded camp? Who are those people wearing linen sleeves? Why are they working here? General, that Xia Pingan said that it wasn't enough to have only 3 shamans here. He wanted some soldiers who were usually free to come here and take care of the wounded soldiers. At first, no one came, but Xia Pingan said that he would teach them the medical skills and prescriptions to take care of the wounded soldiers. They could become doctors in the army. So many old soldiers in the camp rushed to come here to work and learn skills. We felt that letting a few old soldiers come to the camp wouldn't affect the military affairs in the camp, so we acquiesced and let Xia Pingan be a soldier. Another general explained. In this camp, a captain could take care of 100 people. Li Mu knew that some old soldiers could not stay in the military camp for the rest of their lives. When those old soldiers got older and their physical strength declined, they could only leave the military camp and go home. And those old soldiers who went home could only make a living by farming. For many people, the opportunity to learn medicine in the military camp was completely unimaginable. If those old soldiers had the ability to cure diseases and save people, even if they left the military camp, they would not have to worry about food and clothing and would be respected by others. No wonder those people were so happy to work here. Li Mu asked someone to call an old soldier not far away to come over and ask him. That old soldier, who had been happily cutting herbs and listening to music, was suddenly called over. As soon as he saw Li Mu, he became excited. He recognized Li Mu at once and hurriedly bowed to him. Ah, General Li, you're back. You still remember me? Li Mu also smiled. The old soldier laughed, and his eyes were a little red. When you were here, we ate beef every day. The beef I ate in my life was not as much as the beef you ate in the years when you were in this camp. Once when you came to patrol the camp, you ate in the same pot with my brother. How could I forget you? It's just that, these years, many of my old brothers are gone. Li Mu gently patted the old soldier on the shoulder and also felt a little emotional. What skills did you learn here? Additionally, he taught us how to pick herbs, boil and apply medicine, stop bleeding and pull out arrows. He also taught us how to use linen bandages to cover wounds and how to boil lime to paint walls. His medical prescriptions were marvelous. After taking Captain Xia's medical prescriptions, none of our brothers in the casualty barracks died anymore and recovered quickly. Captain Xia also knew how to treat patients with silver needles. However, his skill was too profound for us to learn. Speaking of Captain Xia's medical prescriptions, the old soldier became spirited at once as his eyes lit up. Now, all the brothers in the barracks know that there's a miraculous doctor in the casualty barracks. They're all very happy. Can you treat diseases? The old soldier nodded and said confidently, according to what Xia Pingan taught me, it's no problem to treat arrow wounds and wounds. I never thought that I could be a doctor in my life. Li Mu glanced at Xia Pingan, who was singing with the wounded soldiers in the distance, and nodded. He did not walk over, but turned and left the camp. After leaving, he ordered the people around him, "Ask Xia Pingan to come to see me in the main tent later." Yes. More than an hour later, Xia Pingan finally met Li Mu, whose name would go down in history, in the main tent of the gate of Yanshan. Xia Pingan's eyes swept over Li Mu's face and then looked at Li Mu's right hand. He found that Li Mu's right hand was habitually behind his back, which was a little unnatural. Xia Pingan thought that some historical records said that Li Mu's hand was injured and could not draw a bow. It seemed to be true. "You are Xia Pingan?" Li Mu looked at Xia Pingan seriously and asked softly, "Do you know why I asked you to come here?" "First of all, General, you want to ask me if I have a prescription to treat typhoid fever?" Xia Pingan said calmly. Li Mu's eyes flashed and he suddenly looked as sharp as a tiger. "Why are you so sure? I heard that when you were in the gate of Yanshan camp, You did not allow the soldiers to go to war. Very few soldiers died on the battlefield. Instead, it was because the gate of Yenshan camp was in the bitter cold that many died of typhoid fever. General, you love your soldiers like your children. Today, you came to the camp and saw that I have medical skills and the ability to treat illnesses. Therefore, the first thing you want to ask me when you summon me must be the method to treat typhoid fever. Li Mu nodded. That's right. You just said first. What's the second thing? The second thing, General, you want to see if I have the ability to help you quell the Xiongnu disaster other than my medical skills. What's your answer? I have a prescription to treat typhoid fever. I can teach the cooks in the army to make the decoction. As long as the soldiers in the army take my decoction, their chances of contracting typhoid fever will be less than 1% of what they used to be. It can basically eradicate typhoid fever in the army. Hearing this, Li Mu stood up and said directly, If you have the ability, I can make you a general. Xia Pingan knew that in the army of the state of Zhao, the position of the Grand Marshal was not a small one. During the Warring States period, the military structure of each country was influenced by the Zhou dynasty and was basically the same. For example, in the army of the Zhao kingdom, 5 people formed a troop with a captain. 100 people formed a soldier with a captain. 500 soldiers formed a brigade with a colonel. 5 brigades formed a division with a general. 5 divisions formed an army. The so-called general led more than 10,000 soldiers. Li Mu made him a general. In the gate of Yenshan camp, his position was only below a few generals. It was an important position. General, aren't you going to ask me if I have the ability to help you quell the Xiongnu disaster? Xia Pingan said with a smile. Then do you have the ability? Li Mu asked. If you only want to quell the leader of the Rwandi clan, Chanyu, across the gate of Yenshan, even without me, you already have a card up your sleeve. It won't be difficult for you to defeat the Rwandi clan in a few days. Li Mu laughed and narrowed his eyes at Xia Pingan. What an arrogant tone. In the whole world, there is actually someone who dares to say that it won't be difficult to quell the Xiongnu clan. Do you know how many Xiongnu soldiers there are in the Rwandi clan? There are more than 200,000 of them. The cavalry of the Rwandi clan is twice as many as the soldiers in the gate of Yenshan camp. If it weren't for the fact that the general had to leave the gate of Yen camp back then, I believe that the Rwandi clan would have been pacified by the general by now. The reason why the general didn't allow the soldiers in the camp to join the battle was because he wanted to nurture the arrogance of the Xiongnu clan towards the army of Zhao kingdom. At the same time, he wanted to nurture the bravery of the soldiers in the gate of Yen camp. Once the Xiongnu clan was nurtured, they would think that the army of Zhao kingdom was weak and easily bullied, and they wouldn't dare to join the battle. The general would then wait for the right opportunity and set a trap. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, Li Mu's expression changed. This was his grand plan to quell the Xiongnu clan. He had never told anyone about it, not even the king of the Zhao kingdom. He didn't expect that the moment he arrived at the gate of Yenshan camp, a small soldier would see through it. When he looked at Xia Pingan again, Li Mu was shocked. How could such a person be just a small ranger? Li Mu hurriedly walked over from the general's seat and came before Xia Pingan. He bowed and invited Xia Pingan to sit down. Then, he asked seriously, you just said that quelling the Rwandi clan isn't difficult. What do you think is the difficult part? The Rwandi clan is just one of the Xiongnu clans. Other than the Rwandi clan, there are also many other clans among the Xiongnu clans, such as the Huyan clan, the Lan clan, and Shubwa clan. They are very powerful. The Xiongnu clan has occupied a large area of the grasslands in the north, and their influence extends for tens of thousands of miles. They are a great threat to Huaxia. Even if the Zhao kingdom and general can quell the Rwandi clan, after a long time, the other Xiongnu clans will rise again and bring disaster to the world after recuperating. Therefore, I said that quelling the Rwandi clan is easy, but quelling the threat of the Xiongnu clans in the north, eliminating the threat of the nomads occupying the vast grasslands in the north to the descendants of Huaxia, and establishing a lasting legacy is the most difficult part. Xia Pingan said. I also know that the nomads in the north are the biggest threat to Huaxia. On the grasslands, all the men are warriors and have been practicing archery and horse riding since they were young. They are really frightening. With the strength of the Zhao kingdom alone, it is already our best effort to quell the Rwandi clan. If we want to quell the entire north, even if we unify the world and spend the world's money and taxes, it is still impossible to do so. It is already not easy for us to hold the fort. General, what you said is common sense. However, have you ever thought that the world is bustling and bustling for profit? Right now, all the countries, including the Yan kingdom and the Zhao kingdom, want to quell the Xiongnu only because of the threat of the Xiongnu. We have no choice but to do so. We are passive in our desire to quell the Xiongnu. Our war with the Xiongnu will consume a lot of money and food, and both the Yan kingdom and the Zhao kingdom will not be able to support it. However, if we use a different method and let all the countries and people think that we can take the initiative to quell the Xiongnu, it will make it profitable for everyone to fight the Xiongnu. Not only will it not consume money and food, but it will also make a lot of money. As long as we occupy a piece of grassland, we will have a lot of profit. We can raise the army and enrich the people, make the country rich, and make all the merchants in the world scramble for it. General, do you think that Huaxia can quell the threat of the grasslands in the north? Li Mu raised his eyebrows and his eyes flashed. After thinking for a long time, he said, if that is really the case, it is possible. However, there are only cows and sheep on the grassland. Cows and sheep cannot be transported long distances and cannot be preserved as meat. Even if we can drive the Xiongnu away and occupy the grassland, we can only benefit from one piece of land. How can we make all the merchants scramble for it? How can we raise the army and enrich the people, make the country rich, and use war to support war? General, if you believe me, as long as you lend me 1,000 taels of gold, give me 3,000 men, a piece of grassland, and 20,000 sheep, I can show you how the Zhao kingdom's army can squeeze out gold from the grassland and make all the merchants scramble for it in 3 months. 1,000 taels of gold, 3,000 men, a piece of grassland, 20,000 sheep, and 3 months? Li Mu's voice suddenly became louder. That's right. Okay, I will give you this. I will now appoint you as the field scout of the gate of Yanshan camp. I want to see how you can squeeze out gold from the grassland in 3 months. Li Mu nodded and said. The field scout of the gate of Yanshan camp was responsible for managing the border trade between Gate of Yanshan and Dai County and collecting money and food for the army. He was equivalent to General Li Mu's logistics and finance minister. One of the conditions that Li Mu proposed to King Zhao when he came to Yanshan Pass this time was to resist the Xiongnu. He had full control over the finance, personnel, and military of Yanshan and Dai County, and King Zhao agreed. At this moment, Li Mu's words in Dai County and Yanshan Pass were even more powerful than King Zhao's. Walking out of Li Mu's main tent, Xia Pingan looked at the distant sky and let out a long sigh. Helping Li Mu destroy the Rwandi family was too easy. Even without him, Li Mu, as a peerless general, could also do it. If he personally went into battle, he would not be able to kill 1,000 Xiongnu even if he died. Since this realm Pearl summoned cavalry, Xia Pingan wanted to try another way. He wanted to challenge it and see if he could achieve greater result. He wanted to do one thing. From a system perspective, he wanted to empower the cavalry of Yan, Zhao, and Huaxia. He wanted to turn the cavalry, which was the most expensive in the eyes of the emperors of the other countries, into the most profitable machines. Xia Pingan did not know whether this could succeed or how far it could go. He just wanted to try. Li Mu did as he said. On the same day, the news that he appointed Xia Pingan as field scout spread throughout the camp. Xia Pingan did not stay idle either. After handing over the wounded camp to his subordinates, he chose 3,000 week-old soldiers from the camp. The next day, he brought them to Dai County and took over a ranch and tens of thousands of cattle and sheep. After that, Xia Pingan found carpenters and blacksmiths to start building workshops next to the ranch in Dai County. He also hired some women in Dai County who knew how to weave linen and had them learn how to pull wool. Xia Pingan had never weaved wool before, but he had a rough idea of the process and the conditions and equipment needed to weave wool. If there was something he did not understand, he could try to correct it bit by bit. As a result, it only took him more than 2 months. In less than 3 months, Xia Pingan put a bolt of wool in front of Li Mu. When he touched the wool, even though Li Mu was experienced and knowledgeable, he was still stunned. In a few days, the snow-white, soft, and very textured wool appeared in the border market of Yanmen. As soon as it appeared, it caused a great sensation and attracted countless businessmen from all directions. The price of wool set by Xia Pingan was 1 tael of wool and 100 taels of gold. However, the demand could not meet the demand. The wool that had just been put on the market was instantly snatched up by those businessmen. When the wool appeared in Handan, a carriage of wool was sold at the price of 10 taels of gold. This wool attracted the attention of countless rich and powerful families, who were proud of having a piece of wool. Everything was as Xia Pingan expected. In this era where there was no such thing as a rare raw material, the appearance of wool caused a great sensation. A piece of wool could make everyone crazy, make people chase after it, and make the nobles bow down. For businessmen who pursued profit, wool was simply a white gold mine. For a time, because of the wool, merchants in Yanmen and Daijun were like clouds in the sky. The originally ordinary grassland and sheep were suddenly popular. Li Mu recruited new soldiers in the camp of Yanmen again and began training. He did not fight in closed-door training. After the Xiongnu outside Yanmen Pass learned of the wool, every time they went out to plunder, wool became the most desirable thing for those Xiongnu. The situation outside Yanmen Pass was still the same as in history. What was supposed to happen was still happening, step by step. However, many things were already quietly changing 2 months after the woolen cloth appeared. Some rich merchants from Zhao State sent more than 1,000 fine horses to Li Mu's camp at the gate of Yanshan. They began to build a relationship with Li Mu and began to reward the soldiers. Merchants who wanted to see Li Mu lined up outside the camp at the gate of Yanshan. Chapter 231. The sky was blue, the wilderness was vast, and cattle and sheep could be seen when the wind blew through the grass. This should have been a magnificent scene, but the loud sound of the horn, the murderous aura of the Chinese cavalry, and the thunderous sound of iron hooves reverberated across the vast grassland. On the distant horizon, black smoke rose into the sky. In the distance, the burning Xiongnu royal court was like the last sad song of the Xiongnu tribe under the setting sun. The Yanzhao cavalry, equipped with stirrups, trampled on the wolf banners. They were like wolves and tigers, rampaging across the grassland. Arrows fell like rain, and sabers flashed like snow. Wanderers from various countries followed closely behind. Like a pack of wolves, they surrounded the Xiongnu royal court, not allowing any Xiongnu to escape. The head of a Xiongnu man could be exchanged for 100 mu of grassland. This was a huge temptation to the wanderers of various countries. They could use the heads of the Xiongnu people to make a name for themselves and their wives and children. Other than the wanderers, there was also a large group of nobles and landlords galloping across the grassland. They lit up the tents of the Xiongnu people one by one. From Handan to Jinyang, and then outside Yanmen Pass, Almost all the nobles and landlords of Zhao participated in this banquet. The uncles of the king of Zhao, as well as the relatives of the concubines in the harem, were all part of it. These years, the private soldiers of the nobles were like wild beasts on the grassland. They were unscrupulous and were even more Xiongnu than the Xiongnu people. Kill all the men, but leave the women alive. The private soldiers of the nobles and landlords roared. Further away, there were caravans formed by four-wheeled carriages. The black awning carriages of the caravans were like long worms on the grassland, snaking for dozens of miles. The caravans were like vultures on the grassland. They did not participate in the killing, but only in the feast behind. The caravans and carriages carried the army's provisions and supplies and left with the trade quota of wool and woolen cloth. Wherever the caravans and carriages passed by, the situation on the prairie would be constantly reported. The warriors of the Xiongnu tribe were making their last stand in the core area of the royal court. This resistance represented the final dignity of the Xiongnu tribe. Chanyu could have chosen to break through the encirclement, but he was tired and did not want to run anymore. Chanyu was the leader of the wolf pack, not a stray dog on the grassland. Previously, the royal court of the head Chanyu was in Ku City. Then, Li Mu and Xia Pingan came here with the cavalry. The royal court of the head Chanyu was forced to move from Ku City to Wuliangxi. Then, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Wuliangxi to Mount Hang Ai in the North Desert. 7 years ago, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Mount Hang Ai to the current Bagdo. 3 years ago, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Bagdo to this place, and went all the way north. In less than 20 years, the head Chanyu was forced to move his royal court 4 times. He was chased around the grassland by the cavalry of Yan Zhao and lived a precarious life. The once ambitious head Chanyu gradually grew older with more and more white hair on his head. The once majestic body of the head Chanyu also became hunched. The number of Xiongnu tribes on the grassland also decreased. The most intense battle broke out where the royal court of the Xiongnu tribe was. The arrows of the cavalry of both sides were like locusts flying through the air. Arrows would collide with each other in the air. However, the bone arrows of the Xiongnu people were unable to penetrate the armor of the enemy cavalry. The cavalry of the state of Zhao were all wearing 5 layers of armor made of iron bamboo wood soaked in tung oil, linen, soft silk, and sheepskin. This kind of armor was very light and had sufficient defensive power. It was enough to block the bone arrows of the Xiongnu people. On the other hand, the Xiongnu people fought like their ancestors and fathers did. They did not have such armor and only relied on their flesh and blood. Under the rain of arrows of the state of Zhao, the Xiongnu warriors guarding the royal court of the Xiongnu tribe fell to the ground, soaking the grassland in blood. On a hill not far from the royal court, silk banners fluttered in the wind. A large banner with the word Li and a large banner with the word Xia stood there, fluttering in the wind. Behind the hill, 10,000 elite cavalry of the state of Zhao were in reserve. They were silent like thunder, ready to pounce at any time. On the hill, the armored Xia Pingan and Li Mu each rode on a horse, looking at the Xiongnu royal court in the distance. A group of generals all stood behind them, holding their breaths, not daring to disturb the conversation of the 2 people in front of them. Before we surrounded them, the leader Mandan had time to escape, but he did not. He chose to stay. Li Mu used his horsewhip to point at the royal court in the distance and sighed. He did not want to run, he must be tired. Xia Pingan smiled and looked away from the surroundings. Looking at the terrain, it was a bit like the Karakoram region at the northern foot of Mount Hang Ai in Outer Mongolia. He probably realized that we let him go on purpose the last 2 times. Only he could gather the wandering Xiongnu tribes. Wherever he escapes, it is easier for us to clean up. It is easier to destroy them, and it is easier to clean up when the trash is gathered together. After this battle, the Xiongnu tribe should be wiped out. Li Mu sighed. It should be almost done. The tribes that didn't run away have been almost wiped out. Those that ran away, let them go and cause trouble for others. Xia Pingan also let out a long sigh. It will take many years to completely digest such a vast grassland. This grassland needs someone to guard it. General, you are now the great general of Zhao Kingdom. I think you don't need to return to Handan anymore. Just stay here. It may not be a blessing for you to return to Handan. It is not good for you to return to Handan. Li Mu suddenly turned to look at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan and Li Mu looked at each other calmly. Li Mu suddenly smiled. My life's wish was to pacify the Xiongnu tribe. Now that the Xiongnu tribe has been pacified, my wish has been fulfilled. I can retire and return to my hometown at any time. What about you? What are your plans? Xia Pingan sighed. He glanced at the fallen flagpole of the Xiongnu royal court in the distance, and gently shook his head. I'm afraid I have to leave too. Not long after, Xia Pingan saw a group of cavalrymen rushing over from the direction of the Xiongnu royal court. The valiant general at the front raised a bloody head with one hand and shouted along the way, "The leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded. The leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded." The entire grassland was in an uproar. Seeing the bloody head, the remaining Xiongnu warriors immediately collapsed. Some people fled in all directions, while others completely gave up resistance and were beheaded in the blink of an eye. The cavalrymen quickly rushed to the small hill. The valiant general who raised the head dismounted from his horse and walked quickly to Xia Pingan and Li Mu. He knelt on one knee and raised the head high in his hand. Reporting to the General and Prime Minister Yan, the leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded. This is the head of the leader of the Xiongnu tribe. Please take a look. After the fall of the Zhao Kingdom, Daidi became an important vassal territory of the Zhao Kingdom. The Prime Minister of Daidi was the highest administrative and military officer of Daidi. In these years, as the Zhao Kingdom continued to expand their territory outside the Yanmen Pass and defeated the Xiongnu tribe repeatedly, the wool cloth brought in a lot of money for the Zhao Kingdom. In order to suppress Li Mu and win over Xia Pingan, the king of Zhao followed the customs of Daidi and made Xia Pingan Prime Minister Yan. Nominally, he could rule the land north of the Yanmen Pass. The authority of Xia Pingan and Li Mu overlapped in many places. The king of Zhao originally wanted the two tigers to fight and balance each other. He thought it was a clever move. However, he did not know that the two were not only comrades but also confidants. Xia Pingan did not care about the so-called power of Prime Minister Yan at all. For Xia Pingan, this identity was just to make it easier for him to deal with the nobles in Handan of the Zhao Kingdom. In the northern part of the Zhao Kingdom, Li Mu and Xia Pingan could be said to be powerful and famous. Outside the pass, their reputation could even make the Xiongnu tribe tremble in fear. As long as the Li flag and the Xia flag appeared on the grassland, the Xiongnu tribe within 100 miles of the grassland would flee far away. In order to ensure their safety, the caravans would put the Li flag and the Xia flag on both sides of the carriages to deter the Xiongnu tribe. The bloody old head was not beautiful at all. Xia Pingan looked at the head of the leader of the Xiongnu tribe. When he was about to say something, he saw the whole world turn into a rain of light and shatter at this moment. Everything in the realm bead was in a daze, as if he was in a long dream. A moment later, the surging divine power began to wash Xia Pingan's body. Under the impact of the divine power, Xia Pingan felt as if his body had broken through a ceiling and reached a new level. The divine power in the secret mandala had directly broken through to the two-sun realm. Chapter 232. Xia Pingan's consciousness was immersed in the changes in the secret mandala. The upper limit of his divine power in the celestial Kaisan well had increased by 188 points, from 1,437 points to 1,625 points. In terms of divine power, as expected, he had met the requirements to advance to the two-sun stage. During his time in Shangjing City, Xia Pingan had not expended much divine power. Coupled with his natural recovery every month, his divine power was basically full. The biggest change was not the increase in divine power, but the other changes in the secret mandala. In the northwest of the secret mandala, Xia Pingan saw a building that had not appeared in the secret mandala before. It was a military camp. The military camp was similar to the Yanmen camp at Yanmen Pass. It was also built in the valley between two mountains and occupied a large area. In the center of the military camp, there was a huge bronze relief sculpture, which depicted the scene of Xia Pingan and Li Mu leading the cavalry to break into the Han kingdom. The cavalrymen in the sculpture were so lifelike. They were wearing armor, holding bows, spears, and broadswords. Their horses were galloping and standing on their hind legs, looking valiant and spirited. Those Hun people in the sculpture were either running like wolves or running like rats or running like rats, with their faces full of horror. This was the first time a relief sculpture had appeared outside of the temple. This relief sculpture had a ray of light that shot into the temple. It shone together with the mountain of golden characters on the temple, directly igniting the two words, Iron Cavalry. Xia Pingan had been in a daze in the secret mandala for a long time before he summoned a cavalry from the relief. The cavalry consumed 18 points of divine power. When the cavalrymen in the relief sculpture rode their war horses out of the brilliant relief sculpture, their majestic appearance made Xia Pingan's eyes light up. The cavalry that was summoned was wearing armor and carrying a strong bow. There was a quiver of arrows on the saddle and a long spear in his hand. He looked ferocious. Xia Pingan's gaze lingered on the cavalry for a while. The cavalry's attributes appeared before Xia Pingan's eyes. In the secret mandala, a character's attributes appeared. This meant that this character could be summoned in large numbers and was not unique. Summoned character: Storm Cavalry, Elite, consumed divine power, 18 health, 140 wisdom, 75 force, 62 skills. 1. Death Assault. 2. Mounted archery. 3. Trample. Talent: Light of Life. Plane descent time, 720 minutes. The Storm Cavalrymen were the strongest cavalrymen that Yen Zhao's Realm Pearl could summon. However, the Storm Cavalrymen that he summoned had the words Elite Level. It seemed a little different. To a summoner, the attributes of the characters they summoned was a secret that only they knew. Not many summoners would reveal the attributes of the characters they summoned to the public. Therefore, Xia Pingan didn't know what the attributes of the Storm Cavalry that other summoners could summon were. However, he felt that the Storm Cavalry that he summoned should be stronger than those summoned by other summoners. Just as Xia Pingan summoned the Storm Cavalry, Song Jie appeared at the entrance of the new barracks. With a wave of the jade pen in his hand, he wrote the words Storm Cavalry Barracks on the entrance of the barracks. Xia Pingan used 180 points of divine power to summon 10 Storm Cavalrymen. As it was late at night outside, it was also late at night in the secret mandala. There was no sun in the sky and it was quiet. The farmer and pharmacist were resting. Once the 10 Storm Cavalrymen were summoned, they rode out of the barracks and disappeared into the darkness to patrol. Previously, the patrolling soldiers in the secret mandala were all slave soldiers. With the addition of the Storm Cavalrymen, Xia Pingan could finally summon a proper army. In the secret underground room, Xia Pingan suddenly opened his eyes. The secret room was pitch black. However, a summoner could still see clearly in the dark. The rewards of Yen Zhao's Realm Pearl are really too generous, Xia Pingan muttered to himself. Then, he took out his pocket watch and looked at the time. It was only 3 a.m. There was still plenty of time. Xia Pingan came out of the basement and went up. The small courtyard was quiet. Only a few crickets were chirping in the garden. The woman was sleeping in the guest room. The door was tightly shut. She was already asleep. Xia Pingan went directly to the bathroom. The bathroom in the courtyard was very clean. There was a beautiful bathtub with horseshoe stones. The hot water pipe in the bathtub was connected to the kitchen gas. The gas could be used to heat water for bathing. For someone like Xia Pingan, it didn't matter whether it was hot or cold water. Xia Pingan filled the bathtub with cold water. Then, he took out the 2 Sun Divine Spring and poured it into the water. After the 2 Sun Divine Spring was poured into the cold water, the water in the bathtub became hot. It was like a hot spring gushing out from the ground. The water in the bathtub also became light green. Xia Pingan took off his clothes and soaked in the bathtub. There was only one word to describe the feeling: comfortable. Waves of energy and heat entered Xia Pingan's body from the water. It was warm. The entire secret mandala was bathed in a faint green light. A second sun was slowly forming. Xia Pingan closed his eyes and savored the changes in his body and the secret mandala. The fatigue in his body and mind instantly disappeared. He had finally officially advanced to the 2 Sun realm. For a summoner, the 2 Sun realm was an important dividing line. Even in the Yuanxia world, many summoners in this world were stuck between the preparatory summoners and the 1 Sun realm their entire lives. A 2 Sun realm summoner was an expert that many low-level summoners looked up to and respected. The bounty hunters that Sun Hao had hired to deal with him previously were 2 Sun realm summoners with mediocre abilities. The most powerful summoners that most ordinary people in this world could come into contact with in their entire lives were 2 Sun realm summoners. In order to advance to the 3 Sun realm, his secret mandala had to have more than 2,520 points of divine power. There was still a long way to go. Every time he advanced to the next realm, the difficulty would increase. However, as long as he had the realm pearl, he should be able to steadily advance to the 6th Sun realm. After the bath, Xia Pingan returned to his room to sleep. He slept until he woke up naturally. The sun shone through the window and onto the bed. It was warm. When he opened his eyes were filled with sunshine. Xia Pingan got out of bed, put on his clothes, and washed up. He hummed a song as he slowly walked to the kitchen to make breakfast for himself. Xia Pingan made himself a bowl of noodles. He also made soup with mushrooms, shrimps, dried scallops, and beef bones. He fried eggs, boiled some vegetables, and stir-fried meat with sauce and kitchen spices. These rich families had ice cellars and ice rooms in their kitchens. Xia Pingan had found time to buy some kitchen ingredients in the city and place them in the ice room. It was very convenient for him to make breakfast. Needless to say, Xia Pingan's cooking skills were honed from taking care of Xia Ning for many years. Cooking in the kitchen was a way for Xia Pingan to rest and relax. Of course, he had to be in a good mood to cook. Xia Pingan was in a good mood after advancing to the 2 Sun realm. Ever since he came to Shangjing City, he hadn't cooked for himself for a long time. Today was the first time Xia Pingan was cooking. After the noodles were cooked, thick broth was poured over them. The red shrimps and the golden shellfish meat were arranged neatly. A golden egg was placed in the middle, just like the sun outside. A few green vegetables that had been boiled in boiling water were placed beside the egg like clouds. After that, the fragrant broth was poured over them. In a split second, a large bowl of noodles was placed in front of Xia Pingan, which was filled with a rich aroma. It looked pleasing to the eyes and was filled with the desire to eat. Xia Pingan looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction. He untied his apron and was about to take the noodles out to enjoy when he heard the sound of someone swallowing saliva. Xia Pingan looked up and saw Lady Chow Chow with a fluffy head standing outside the kitchen. Her eyes were glued to the bowl of noodles he had cooked, and she was swallowing her saliva. Lady Chow Chow didn't seem to have slept well last night. There were 2 dark circles under her eyes. However, this didn't hinder her from appreciating and judging the food. The aroma coming from the kitchen was too alluring. Grumble, grumble. Xia Pingan could vaguely hear Lady Chow Chow's stomach growling. That's right, this lady probably didn't eat dinner last night. What's that on the table? It looks very nice. Lady Chow Chow asked even though she already knew the answer. Her eyes were glued to the bowl of noodles. As she swallowed her saliva, she walked toward the kitchen like she was sleepwalking. Oh no, she was walking toward the bowl of noodles Xia Pingan had cooked. Chapter 233. Delicious, delicious, too delicious. I've never eaten such delicious noodles. In the dining room, Xia Pingan ate a small portion of the big bowl of noodles he cooked, and the rest was all eaten by Chow Chow. Not only did she finish the noodles, but even the soup in the noodles was all gone. Xia Pingan watched Miss Chow Chow eat his noodles. For some reason, when Miss Chow Chow ate the noodles, although she looked like she was gobbling them up, it didn't feel vulgar or rude. Instead, there was a sense of straightforwardness and even a little elegance. What the hell? Xia Pingan muttered in his heart. He had to find an explanation for himself. Perhaps when he saw her, he thought of Xia Ning. Is there anything else? She hastily raised her head and looked at Xia Pingan with her beautiful angelic face. She blinked her eyes cutely. There's no more. Under Cao Cao's gaze, Xia Pingan stuffed the last noodle in his bowl into his mouth. Then, he picked up the bowl and drank the last bit of soup mercilessly. By the way, you didn't seem to sleep well last night. Are you not used to being here? Xia Pingan finished drinking the soup, put down his bowl, and asked. Yesterday, I didn't know if you were reliable or a bad person, so I didn't dare to sleep last night. I even blocked the door of the guest room. Chow Chow nodded and said matter-of-factly, Now it seems that you're not a bad person. A bad person shouldn't be able to make such delicious noodles. Xia Pingan was speechless. What kind of logic was this? Forget it, I don't care. This girl is being watched, so she probably won't stay here for long. Remember, wash the dishes. Xia Pingan said to Chow Chow. What, you want me to wash the dishes? Chow Chow pointed at her nose, raised her eyebrows, and stared at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan stared back at her with an even louder voice. Have you ever seen a chef wash dishes? How can you eat for free? You ate my noodles, so you have to wash the dishes. Washing 2 dishes is already a bargain for you. If you dare to dine and dash outside, if you meet a fierce person, you'll be caught to wash the dishes for a month. You'll also have to wash the floor, mop the floor, and sell you to a remote place in the mountains to give birth to someone's children. Oh, I'll wash it. Why are you so fierce? Cao Cao's arrogance suddenly withered. Wash and wipe the bowls and chopsticks and put them in the kitchen. Before leaving the dining room, Xia Pingan also instructed. But Xia Pingan had only walked a few steps out of the room when he heard a clang sound behind him. It was the sound of a bowl falling to the ground and breaking. Xia Pingan turned around and saw her sticking out her tongue, looking at him awkwardly. Forget it for the sake of those gold coins. I'm going out for a while. Remember to lock the door if you're leaving, Xia Pingan told Chow Chow and asked the black dragon to look after the house. He then went to the door, took today's newspaper, walked out of the alley, and went to the street outside. After waiting for a while, he called a rental carriage and asked the carriage to go directly to Tianyuan Bridge. The atmosphere in Shangjing City today was not as tense as yesterday. There were fewer checkpoints on the street, but policemen could still be seen everywhere. Especially when passing by the gate of the Judgment Army's camp, it could be seen that the Judgment Army's camp was not as peaceful as before. From time to time, there were black carriages going in and out of the camp. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, he saw that the entire front page, as well as the other pages, reported the various great changes that happened yesterday. The headline on the front page of the newspaper was, "The Judgment Army Destroyed the Blood Demon Church in Beihai Harbor and Shangjing City." Accompanying this headline was a photo of a huge warship. The warship in the photo was distorted, and half of it was exposed from the sea. The visual effect was extremely shocking, as if it had experienced a great change in the end of the world. Xia Pingan looked at the news carefully. The news recorded the Blood Demon Church's rebellion in Beihai Harbor yesterday. According to the way the news was written, the Blood Demon Church was naturally full of pus and ulcers. They actually wanted to assassinate the guests who participated in the warship launching ceremony at Beihai Harbor and carried out terrorist attacks among the onlookers. However, because the Judgment Army responded appropriately and the Crown Prince's strategy and command were appropriate, they quickly crushed the Blood Demon Church's conspiracy and terrorist activities and didn't let the Blood Demon Church cause more damage. At the same time, the Judgment Army followed the clues and identified many hidden members of the Blood Demon Church in Shangjing City. They destroyed the conspiracy network that the Blood Demon Church operated in Shangjing City and effectively protected the good environment of the Shang Kingdom and Shangjing City. They asked the public not to panic and to report any clues that they had and how many rewards they could receive. Looking at the distorted warship in the newspaper again, Xia Pingan was slightly shocked. He really couldn't imagine what kind of power could turn a warship into such a state. In the carriage, Xia Pingan directly put away the newspaper carefully and put it in his space warehouse. He felt that the distorted warship photo in the newspaper could be kept as a reminder that the road of a summoner was still very long. There were countless strong people, and he still had a long way to go. It was best to guard against arrogance and impatience and not be complacent with his current achievements. The wheels of the carriage turned. After an hour, Xia Pingan finally arrived at the Tianyuan Bridge. Soon, he met the middleman that he met yesterday again. "Mr. Xia, I went around the whole day yesterday and persuaded the landlord in every way possible. He finally agreed to reduce the price by 600 gold coins. The house will be sold for 43,000 gold coins. I can't go any lower. This is the final price. The landlord wants cash and a lump sum payment. It's best to complete all the transaction procedures within 3 days. After a day of negotiation, he saved 600 gold coins. Xia Pingan felt that it was quite worth it. Okay, thank you very much. I won't shortchange you a single copper coin. We can sign the contract and complete the procedures today. The procedures for the property transaction were a little troublesome. Xia Pingan stayed at the Tianyuan Bridge for almost a day. In the middle, he followed the middleman to the Real Estate Administration Bureau and the Justice Department in Shangjing City. After completing the final procedures, half a day passed. Finally, he had a place in Shangjing City that truly belonged to him. Xia Pingan was quite happy. The house that he bought at the Tianyuan Bridge was really good. The house was by the Tianyuan River. It faced the street and was very spacious. He could open it up to do business or renovate it into a reception hall. There was a square outside the house, so it was convenient to park the carriage. Peach trees were planted on both sides of the flagstone road outside the shop. In the house, there was a small bridge over flowing water and bamboo. It had an attic and a courtyard with 2 entrances. It was very good. If it was on Earth, this house would be worth hundreds of millions of gold coins. He took the key to the house, changed the lock, and found a carpenter to make a plaque. In just 1 day, everything was gone. It would take at least 7 or 8 days for the house to be renovated and cleaned. When Xia Pingan returned to the Changle Alley, the sky was completely dark. He found that his door was locked. The careless girl had already left. She probably ran away. Xia Pingan was too lazy to care about her. Thinking that he had almost no time to eat all day and his stomach was rumbling with hunger, Xia Pingan returned to the kitchen and began to busy himself. When he cooked another bowl of noodles for himself, there was a knock on the door outside the house. Looking, it was still the careless girl standing outside the door. Xia Pingan helplessly slapped his forehead. Why did this female benefactor come back again? Xia Pingan came to the door and opened it. He helplessly asked, "Didn't you leave?" "Humph, don't think that I don't know. I gave you so much money that you can stay in the best hotel for a few days. I only stayed here for 1 day. Isn't that a loss? I think you're a good person, so I've decided to stay here for the next few days." As the careless girl spoke, her nose suddenly twitched. She sniffed and looked in the direction of the kitchen. Her eyes lit up. "What smells so good?" Xia Pingan's face changed. He quickly turned and ran to the kitchen. Unexpectedly, the careless girl was not slow either. She also rushed to the kitchen after Xia Pingan. A moment later, there was a commotion in the kitchen. "This is mine." This was Xia Pingan's voice. "Mine." This was the careless girl's voice. She sounded like a tiger. "This lady is hungry and I've paid. Quickly let go. If you don't let go, this lady will bite you. Go and cook it yourself." You actually bite me, humph." P.S. Tiger recognized the fact that he was slow at writing. Therefore, the first 2 chapters' update time was extended to before 2 p.m. Chapter 234. Crackle, 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 crackle. 2 strings of firecrackers that were a few meters long exploded at the entrance. Sparks flew everywhere and red flowers covered the ground. This huge commotion attracted the attention of the passers-by on the street. Xia Pingan, who was wearing a green robe, stood at the entrance. Under the gazes of the surrounding people, he cupped his hands and bowed with a smile. When the firecrackers finished exploding, the surrounding people gathered around. Xia Pingan took out a few copper coins. According to the customs of Shangjing City, he sprinkled them among the red paper scraps on the ground at the entrance, causing many children on the street to come over and snatch them. They were very happy. Then, Xia Pingan pulled down the red rope beside him and opened the signboard. On the black signboard, there were 3 large golden words, "Zhougong Building," that shone under the sunlight. It was rather imposing. Following the unveiling of the signboard, the couplets on both sides of the door were also unveiled. On the left and right of the door there were 10 words. Connected together, they read, "Dreams come at night, spirits predict good and bad." The Huangliang Shaman Gorge's affairs could not end without this. "Ah, so it's a dream soothsayer." When the surrounding people saw the couplets, they instantly understood. "Ha, this dream soothsayer is really daring. This place is not far from Master Shuiyue's carefree building. He actually dares to open another shop on the Tianyuan Bridge. Isn't he afraid of not having business? I heard that this house has changed owners a few days ago. He's rich, what can you do about it?" The surrounding people discussed animatedly. "Boss, how much is it for a dream soothsayer?" Among the surrounding people, someone asked loudly. Xia Pingan didn't say anything. He just coughed twice and gave a look behind him. That Chow Chow girl, who had been waiting excitedly for a long time, immediately took out a sign and placed it at the door. The sign also had 8 words on it. "A dream is worth 100 gold, no bargaining." The surrounding people were instantly in an uproar. Everyone was dumbfounded. Is he crazy? 100 gold coins for a dream soothsayer. Master Shuiyue only charges 30 gold coins for a dream soothsayer. This person thinks he's better than Master Shuiyue? There's no dream soothsayer in the upper capital who charges such a high price. Could this person be a swindler? Xia Pingan cupped his hands towards the outside. Without further explanation, he brought Chow Chow back inside. The interior of the Duke of Zhou building had been remodeled from a storefront. At the entrance was a marble porch and greenery. After going around the porch, one would arrive at the outer hall. There were tables in the outer hall, as well as a place for people to drink tea, chat, and read. After passing through the outer hall, one would arrive at the inner hall. The inner hall was in the courtyard, and the decorations were hidden and secluded. There were many bamboos planted in the surroundings, and it was very stylish. Today was the 28th of May. It had been almost 2 weeks since the battle at Beihai Harbor of the Blood Demon sect. In these 2 weeks, the courtyard that Xia Pingan bought at Tianyuan Bridge had been refurbished and renovated. After adding some furniture, it looked brand new and was officially open for business. A few days ago, the renovation of the courtyard needed someone to watch over it. Xia Pingan felt that it was too time-consuming to keep an eye on it, and it would delay his cultivation of fusing with the realm pearl. In addition, he had gained another domineering female tenant in Changle Alley. Xia Pingan followed the principle of making the best use of everything and handed some work to Cao Cao, letting her keep an eye on the renovation of the courtyard for him. He didn't expect Cao Cao to be so interested in this work. When she heard that Xia Pingan had arranged work for her, she was very excited and accepted it without hesitation. She started to seriously work for Xia Pingan. Cao Cao looked carefree and inexperienced, but since there was someone secretly watching over her and protecting her, Xia Pingan didn't have to worry about her safety. In this way, after 2 weeks, Miss Cao Cao had unknowingly mixed together with Xia Pingan and became Xia Pingan's assistant. Today was the opening of Duke Zhou's building, and Cao Cao looked even more excited than Xia Pingan. She got up before the sun rose and put on makeup. Today, she wore a green dress and looked like a lotus flower in the pond. She stood tall and looked especially lively. "Don't you think that 100 gold coins per use is too expensive? What if no one comes?" When the two of them came to the inner hall, Cao Cao said to Xia Pingan with a worried tone, "In Shangjing City, many people can't even earn 100 gold coins a year, right?" Cao Cao didn't seem to have any concept of gold coins before, but after spending time with Xia Pingan, she seemed to slowly understand the value of a gold coin. 100 gold coins per dream, was it expensive? It was indeed expensive for ordinary people, but for rich people, it was worth it as long as they could really predict good or bad luck. Even Master Shueiyue, who was a 3-legged cat, was doing very well in Shangjing City. On the surface, it only cost 30 gold coins per time to interpret a dream, but in reality, the cost of those who looked for Master Shueiyue to interpret their dreams was far more than 30 gold coins. She was the disciple of Duke Zhou, a great master of ancient Chinese dream interpretation culture. If someone like her was placed in ancient times, she would definitely be more than qualified to be a dream diviner in the palace. 100 gold coins for you to interpret a dream. You should be secretly happy if you were lucky. Moreover, this 100 gold coins per time was the best advertisement. There would definitely be people who couldn't help but want to try. Duke Zhou's building of Duke Zhou's dream interpretation was an absolutely high-end route, one that was even more high-end than Master Shuiyue's. Xia Pingan's goal was to become the #1 dream interpretation person in Shangjing City and even the Shang dynasty. 100 gold coins was just the beginning. When he had a complete reputation, 1,000 gold coins per time wouldn't be a big problem. Of course, there was no need to say these words to Cao Cao. If you think it's expensive, then don't ask for your commission. I can even give customers a discount of 1 gold coin. Actually, if it's 99 gold coins, there might be more people coming. Xia Pingan was like a black-hearted boss as he said directly to Cao Cao. "You dare." Cao Cao put her hands on her hips and stared at Xia Pingan fiercely. "You previously said that I would receive customers for you here and give me 1 gold coin per customer. Are you trying to go back on your word? This is my job. Work is to earn money. Don't think I don't understand. You know too well. Miss Cao Cao, watch your attitude. You are now a waiter of Duke Zhou's building, and I am the shopkeeper. How can a waiter speak to a shopkeeper like this? Xia Pingan said. Cao Cao's attitude immediately eased up, but she still pouted. I don't care. In short, I can't pay you less than a copper coin. If you dare to deduct my salary, be careful that I won't let you off. Okay, I won't pay you less than a copper coin. Let me ask you again. Do you know what you have to do? Humph, of course I know. Isn't it just asking customers to wait in the outer hall and chatting with them for a while? When I enter the inner hall, if I see the black dragon barking, I will know that you are in seclusion in the basement. If you don't want to be disturbed, I will pull the rope bell to remind you. Then, I will come out and ask the customers outside to wait for a while to pass the time. If the black dragon doesn't bark, I will bring the customers in for you to interpret their dreams. If there are too many customers, I will give them number plates and ask them to line up. Not bad, you're not stupid. Speaking of number plates, Cao Cao seemed to have thought of something as she asked in confusion, by the way, why do you only prepare 3 number plates? Why don't you prepare more? What if there are too many customers? The rarer something is, the more precious it is. The rarer it is, the more precious it is. If you want to make money, you have to study the psychology of your customers. For those who are willing to spend 100 gold coins to decipher a dream, you have to make them feel proud and stand out from the masses. If you're like Master Shueiyue, you'll be at a disadvantage. From now on, I will only decipher the dreams of 3 people a day. From now on, you can give those 3 plates to whoever you want. Look, it won't be long before a lot of people will want to fawn on you. 1 plate that allows me to decipher dreams can be sold for hundreds of gold coins outside. Cao Cao looked at Xia Pingan with a suspicious look. You really know how to interpret dreams. Why do I feel that you are here to cheat money? Xia Pingan glared at Cao Cao. All right, remember to bring people to the inner hall in the courtyard when they come. I will leave this place to you. After speaking, Xia Pingan left Cao Cao there, and left the outer hall alone, returning to the courtyard. The inner hall was rather quiet. The black dragon was guarding here. Xia Pingan knew that no one would come for a while, so he simply entered the basement and started fusing the realm beads. These days, Xia Pingan did not idle around. He continuously bought and fused realm beads that had not been fused in the night market of the Tianyuan Bridge. At this moment, the divine power in Xia Pingan's secret mandala was already at 2,117 points. In a few more days, Xia Pingan would be able to steadily advance to the 3-sun realm. Chapter 235. The speed at which Xia Pingan fused with realm pearls was simply unheard of. When he walked to the basement, Xia Pingan estimated that he would be able to officially advance to the 3 suns realm in half a month at most. However, in the past half a month, as more and more realm pearls fused, a new problem gradually arose. That was, Xia Pingan discovered that the realm pearls that he could buy at a relatively cheap price from the Heavenly Origin Bridge Night Vision and that he had not fused with before were getting fewer and fewer. Yes, there were only so many realm pearls that were commonly seen. The more realm pearls one fused with, the fewer realm pearls one could fuse with. Even if some realm pearls had not been fused with before, their prices were simply too exaggerated. Even if Xia Pingan knew how to fuse with them, the realm pearls that cost thousands of gold coins or even tens of thousands of gold coins were not cost-effective at all. Not only that, Xia Pingan discovered that after the Blood Demon Church was wiped out in Shangjing City on the 15th, the realm pearls sold in the Tianyuan Bridge's night market had unknowingly increased in price. In less than half a month, the realm pearls in the night market, whether it was in the shops or the bounty hunters' stalls, had increased in price by more than 20%. The realm pearls were increasing in price. The rice, flour, oil, and other daily necessities in Shangjing City had also fluctuated slightly in the past half a month, but it was not obvious. According to the newspaper, the reason for the increase in price of realm pearls was that the northern border of the Shang dynasty was not very stable. A few large tribes of the northern demon wolf race showed signs of moving southward. Some groups and organizations that caught wind of this began to hoard realm pearls. This was an old trick. As long as there was any movement and the situation became tense, people would begin to hoard realm pearls, rice, and other things. According to some bounty hunters in the night market, for some unknown reason, the number of demons appearing in Shangjing City's outer sea and underground began to decrease in the past month. Once the number of demons decreased, the number of realm pearls appearing in the market also began to decrease, and the price naturally began to increase. The bounty hunters did not know why the number of demons appearing in the outer sea and underground decreased, because this situation was very abnormal and did not happen often. In short, something seemed to be wrong. Xia Pingan keenly felt the undercurrent under Shangjing City's calm situation. Xia Pingan went to the basement and sat down cross-legged. Then, he took out a realm pearl that was flashing with a faint purple brilliance. Xia Pingan had bought this realm pearl for more than 800 gold coins at the night market yesterday. The seller of the realm pearl said that this realm pearl was the divine skill realm pearl. The so-called divine skill realm pearl was a realm pearl that could allow a summoner to master some special skills after fusing with it. The divine skill realm pearl would not allow a summoner to develop a new profession, nor would it allow a summoner to summon any characters or spells. It would only allow a summoner to master some special skills that could be performed with divine power. This realm pearl was called the Lotus Realm Pearl by steps among the summoners. After the successful fusion, the skill he gave to the summoners was a kind of lotus steps that could be performed with divine power. One step, one lotus flower. Whether it was used for fighting, escaping at critical moments, or avoiding various attacks, it was a first-class powerful skill. Without the cooperation of the spiritual crystal, the death rate of fusing with this realm pearl was more than 90%. It was just that the spiritual crystal of this realm pearl was very rare, so the realm pearl was sold at such a cheap price. After dripping blood, Xia Pingan was quickly wrapped in a cocoon of light and entered the world of the realm pearl. As soon as Xia Pingan opened his eyes, he saw that he was in a hall. Around the hall, there were strong guards who were eyeing him covetously. A man wearing a dragon robe and an emperor's crown on his head, with a hawk-like nose and wolf-like eyes, sat on the throne and stared at him coldly. Several eunuchs in the hall were also quietly looking at him with complicated expressions. The hall was silent. The atmosphere was oppressive, and killing intent was surging. Fourth younger brother, everyone in the world says that you're the most talented among all the brothers in the Chao clan except for our father. The man sitting on the throne opened his mouth with a malicious smile. I haven't heard fourth younger brother compose a poem for a long time. How about fourth younger brother compose a poem for me with the title Brothers? Based on fourth younger brother's talent, it shouldn't take you too long to compose a poem. It should be done within 7 steps. If fourth younger brother composes a poem well, I will reward you. If not, fourth younger brother would be disdained to compose a poem for me, which would be a crime of deceiving the emperor. I can only let fourth younger brother walk on the chopping block. Xia Pingan looked up at the repulsive Chao Pai and sighed inwardly. This Chao Pai, in order to inherit Cao Cao's foundation, began to kill his own brothers as soon as Cao Cao passed away. He was really unscrupulous. Back then, when Chao Ong was still alive, this Chao Pai had absolutely no hope of inheriting Cao Cao's great cause, nor did he dare to have any ideas. However, when Chao Ong died, this Chao Pai jumped out. Back then, after Chao Ong died, Chao Chong was Cao Cao's favorite son. Then, Chao Chong died mysteriously. Now, Chao Pai wanted to kill him, forcing Chao Xiong to hang himself and seize Chao Zheng's military power. Next year, in order to show his magnanimity, Chao Zhang would be promoted to a duke. The year after that, Chao Zhang would come to Luoyang to meet Chao Pai again. Then, Chao Zhang, who had been strong since childhood and could fight with fierce beasts, inexplicably died of an illness in Luoyang. Chao Pai killed all his brothers, thinking that he could protect his position. However, he didn't know that his good friend Sima Yi, whom he had tried his best to protect, was waiting for him to do so. In the end, Chao Pai was only a dowry for Sima Yi. Was Sima Yi encouraging Chao Pai to eliminate his brothers by hook or by crook? Was she borrowing Chao Pai's hand to eliminate the power of the Chao family? This question was probably only known by Chao Pai and Sima Yi. Cao Cao was the minister of Han, but he held the emperor and ordered his vassals to seize the world of the great Han. However, in the end, the heavens gave Cao Cao a son, Chao Pai. The world that Cao Cao had worked hard to seize was given away by the prodigal Chao Pai after his death. The heavens were clear. It was truly frightening. Xia Pingan estimated the distance between himself and Chao Pai. He wondered what would happen if he suddenly killed Chao Pai at this time. At this moment, he was only about 10 steps away from Chao Pai. If he walked 7 steps, he would be less than 10 steps away from Chao Pai. If he suddenly attacked, Xia Pingan deliberated in his heart. He looked at Chao Ji's thin arms and legs and sighed. Forget it. The reward for changing history was indeed tempting. However, the risk this time was too great, and the benefits were uncertain. If he made a mistake, he might die. It was better to be safe. Chao Ji will naturally obey your Majesty's orders. Xia Pingan shook his head and began to take a step forward. He began to compose a poem. His clear voice resounded through the hall. Boil beans and hold them as soup. Soak them as juice. Soak them in the cauldron. Beans weep in the cauldron. Born from the same roots, why be in such a rush to destroy each other? One step, one line. He finished composing 6 lines before taking the 7th step in the outer hall of the Duke of Zhou's building. Cao Cao was like the front desk of this place. She propped her chin up with both hands and stared impatiently at the entrance. Her eyes were about to fall asleep from staring, but no one appeared. It was almost noon. Just as Cao Cao's stomach began to growl, and she began to miss Xia Pingan's cooking and thought that no one would come, a 30-something-year-old man with a resolute face and a noble temperament calmly walked in from behind a screen. He held a folding fan in his hand and was accompanied by an old man in green. The man who walked in was the crown prince of the Shang dynasty, Beitang Wangchuan. When Cao Cao saw Beitang Wangchuan, a trace of shock and guilt appeared on her face. She even tilted her head and glanced at the inner hall. She hurriedly walked over from behind the table and quietly said, "Eldest brother, why have you come?" Beitang Wangchuan looked at everything in the room. He then looked at Cao Cao's face. "I heard concubine mother say that you were not in the palace these few days and ran out to cause trouble, so I came to take a look." Cao Cao stuck out her tongue. She then rudely pushed Beitang Wangchuan towards the door. "How am I causing trouble? I have found a job now. Elder brother, leave quickly. Don't affect my work." Beitang Wangchuan stood motionless like a rock. He only smiled and said, "I am also a guest. You are working here. How can you push a guest out? Are you not afraid that I will complain to your shopkeeper?" Chapter 236. Hearing Beitang Wangchuan say that he was a customer, Cao Cao could only helplessly look at him and put his hands on his waist. "All right, you're a customer. Interpreting dreams is 100 gold coins, not a single copper coin less. Hand over the money." 100 gold coins? Beitang Wangchuan smiled slightly. Even if it was 1,000,000 gold coins, it was nothing to him. He casually pulled out a 100 gold coin banknote and handed it to Cao Cao. "Can I go in now?" Cao Cao took the banknote and did not forget to warn Beitang Wangchuan, If you mess around, I'll tell Father Emperor that you bullied me. Don't worry, I'm just divining a dream. There are too many scammers among the dream diviners in Shangjing. Many people only know a little about the art of divining dreams and go around swindling people, saying that they are dream diviners. I want to see if the shopkeeper of this Duke show building is a scammer. Wait here. I'll go inside and take a look. I'll call you when I'm done. After Chow Chow finished speaking, he put away the banknote and walked towards the inner hall. After a while, Chow Chow walked out. All right, follow me. Only you can go in. Beitang Wang Chuan smiled and had the person following him stay in the outer hall. He then followed Chow Chow into the inner hall. After passing through a door and a corridor, they arrived at a small pavilion in the bamboo forest, where they saw Xia Pingan. The 7 steps to compose a poem, Realm Pearl provided Xia Pingan with 30 points of Shen power. The 7 steps to compose a poem had 30 words, and each word was 1 point of Shen power. After fusing with it, Xia Pingan silently experienced the Lotus Steps skill in the pavilion. The mystical aspect of this divine skill Realm Pearl was that once fused with it, Xia Pingan would be able to use Shen power to activate this footwork skill. This skill seemed to be a supplementary skill for summoners to fight and escape. Just now, Xia Pingan silently tried it out in the courtyard. This skill actually allowed him to step on the lotus leaves in the courtyard as if he was flying. His entire person felt like he was floating in the air. It was truly useful. Xia Pingan originally thought that no one would come to his door to steal his dreams today. He did not expect that there would be business early in the morning. Sitting behind the desk and looking at Beitang Wang Chuan, who was walking behind Chow Chow, Xia Pingan blinked. This Cao Cao's face was a little similar to Beitang Wang Chuan's, especially their noses. They were tall and straight, as if they were made from the same mold. This man was older than Chow Chow. He couldn't beat Cao Cao's older brother, right? If he had a younger sister who ran out of the house for half a month, he would probably go and take a look, right? Xia Pingan seemed to have understood something. Compared to Xia Pingan, the moment she saw Xia Pingan, a mysterious light flashed in Beitang Wang Chuan's eyes. The shock in her heart was even more indescribable. There would naturally be people to investigate who Chow Chow had been with these past few days. The imperial family of Deshang would not allow a person of unknown origin to get close to the princess. It was just that the people who investigated were unable to find any information about this Yang Qing before he came to Shangjing. They only knew that this Yang Qing did not seem to lack money. Previously, he had rented a courtyard in Chengal Alley near Ping Mountain. Yang Qing did not deliberately get close to Chow Chow. Instead, Chow Chow was deliberately getting close to this Yang Qing. Furthermore, Chow Chow was rather happy with him these past few days. Today, Beitang Wang Chuan heard that this Yang Qing actually considered himself to be a dream seer and opened a dream seer house. Coincidentally, Beitang Wang Chuan left the palace this morning to handle some matters and went to visit a sick official. When she passed by Tianyuan Bridge on her way back, she could not help but want to take a look at the identity of this man who made Chow Chow so obedient. And once she saw Xia Pingan, Beitang Wang Chuan's Eye of Truth divine skill was activated. With a glance, she saw through the wishful mask on Yang Qing's face. And the face under the mask, if it was not Xia Pingan who had joined the Judgment Army, who else could it be? Xia Pingan had made a great contribution last time and could be considered to have saved her once. These days, the Judgment Army had been looking for Xia Pingan all over Shangjing. It was just that this Xia Pingan seemed to have disappeared. Beitang Wang Chuan even thought that Xia Pingan had already escaped Shangjing. She did not expect that this guy had actually changed and become a dream seer. Interesting, seeing Xia Pingan's true face under the mask, Beitang Wang Chuan's expression did not change, but her gaze became even more profound. Does this young master want to divine a dream? Please sit. Xia Pingan gestured for Beitang Wang Chuan to sit across from him. Hastily closing the door and leaving, before leaving, she used her gaze to warn Beitang Wang Chuan not to cause trouble. Hastily warning Beitang Wang Chuan's gaze was noticed by Xia Pingan. In his heart, he was even more certain about the relationship between Beitang Wang Chuan and Cao Cao. Cao Cao and this man should be siblings. Inside the room, there was a burning sandalwood incense. It was quite peaceful and very lively. Xia Pingan was about to ask Beitang Wang Chuan what dream he wanted to divine when the boy of fortune jumped out from Beitang Wang Chuan's secret mandala and onto the table in front of the two. The boy of fortune's face transformed into a figurine mask. The boy of fortune took off his mask and pointed at Xia Pingan. Then he pointed at his own eyes and pointed at Beitang Wang Chuan, making a series of hand gestures. Xia Pingan was also stunned. What the boy of fortune meant was that the man opposite him had already seen through the mask on his face and knew his true face. How could this be then? The boy of fortune wrote 3 words in the air in front of Xia Pingan: Crown Prince. Fuck. If this man was the Crown Prince, then wasn't Cao Cao the Princess of Deshang? Beitang Wang Chuan did not notice at all that the boy of fortune had appeared in front of him and had already revealed his true identity to Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan quivered and looked at Beitang Wang Chuan again. Xia Pingan's gaze also became deep. The two people in the room looked at each other for more than 10 seconds. You look at me, I look at you. The atmosphere was a little strange. Finally, it was Xia Pingan who broke the silence. He pretended to not know anything and asked, "Does this young master want to divine a dream?" "That's right. I came today to divine a dream." Beitang Wang Chuan also spoke. "Why is the price of a dream divination here so much higher than other places? There are many famous dream divination masters in Shangjing. Even if they divine a dream once, it's only a few dozen gold coins. You want to divine a dream for 100 gold coins. Why? This young master has asked a good question. I divine a dream based on my ability. Since young master is the first customer of Duke Zhou's building, I will divine a dream for young master for free. Young master can take back this 100 gold coins." As Xia Pingan spoke, he took out the 100 gold coins banknote and placed it on the table, pushing it over. Beitang Wang Chuan laughed. "Haha, as long as the divination is accurate, this 100 gold coins is nothing. I can give you 10,000 gold coins. All right, then I ask young master to tell me which dream you want to divine. I will divine it for young master," Xia Pingan said. Beitang Wang Chuan's expression became a little more serious. He thought for a while and said, "I had a dream the day before yesterday. I saw the army being defeated. I was in the midst of the defeated army. There was a raging flame beside me, burning my body. I wonder if this dream is auspicious or inauspicious. Let me perform a dream for young master." Xia Pingan stretched out his hand and pointed at Beitang Wang Chuan's forehead. That hazy dream appeared in front of Xia Pingan like a projection. In the dream, Xia Pingan saw the army being defeated like a landslide. Beitang Wang Chuan was dressed in armor and was in the midst of the defeated army of the Shang dynasty. He wanted to salvage the situation, but suddenly, the ground in front of Beitang Wang Chuan burned with a raging fire. That fire began to burn Beitang Wang Chuan's body. Beitang Wang Chuan's body glowed with a bright red light, like a furnace. And in that fire, Beitang Wang Chuan did not seem to feel much pain. The strange thing about dreams was that everything in the dream did not appear according to logic. It was grotesque and variegated. Just like Beitang Wang Chuan's dream, he did not know how the army was defeated, but in the midst of the defeated army, a fire suddenly ignited beside him. It came without a beginning or end. "How is it?" Beitang Wang Chuan asked. "Young master's dream is split into 2. There is inauspicious and auspicious," Xia Pingan said. "What do you mean?" Seeing the defeated army, there is inauspiciousness. This is an ominous sign. But young master is in the midst of the defeated army, there is a raging fire burning his body. This is the sign of a noble person helping you. Xia Pingan was interpreting the dream. This interpretation of the dream was not made up by him, nor was he trying to flatter himself. It was Beitang Wangchuan's dream that really had such a meaning. Hearing Xia Pingan say this, Beitang Wangchuan's expression became more serious. Apart from this, what else does this dream foretell? In young master's dream, the army was defeated without any reason. It happened completely suddenly. Once it appeared, it involved young master. This means that the ominous event will also happen suddenly, catching young master unprepared. Perhaps it will happen in the near future, or perhaps it has already happened and young master has not discovered it. Chapter 237. The road outside the Duke of Zhou building was filled with people and carriages. Just as Beitang Wangchuan walked out of the Duke of Zhou building, a bronze-colored carriage pulled by 2 white horses passed by. The people in the carriage were originally looking at the scenery on both sides of the street when they suddenly saw Beitang Wangchuan walk out of the Duke of Zhou building. The people in the carriage almost thought that they were seeing things. Looking again, when they saw the elder at Beitang Wangchuan's side, the people in the carriage felt their hearts tremble. Beitang Wangchuan's carriage was stopped in front of the Duke of Zhou building. It was a carriage pulled by 2 black horses. Beitang Wangchuan's brows were slightly furrowed as he walked out and got into the carriage. The carriage began to move quickly on the road. Pull over to the side of the road. Stop and make way. Let that black carriage pass first. In the bronze-colored carriage, the person sitting in the carriage ordered the driver. The bronze-colored carriage slowed down and pulled over to the side of the road, allowing Beitang Wangchuan's black carriage to pass in front. When Beitang Wangchuan's carriage passed, the bronze-colored carriage turned around and went back the way it had come. When it passed by the Duke of Zhou building, the window curtain of the bronze-colored carriage was lifted. Behind the window of the carriage, the face of a middle-aged man in his 50s, who had lived like a prince, was revealed. That man squinted his eyes in surprise and looked at the Duke of Zhou building's facade once more, feeling surprised. The Crown Prince, Beitang Wangchuan, had actually come here to divine dreams. What the hell? But the man in the carriage did not get out of the carriage. He only flashed past on the road. Inside the carriage, Beitang Wangchuan was still frowning slightly. In truth, he was skeptical of Xia Pingan's dream divination. Xia Pingan should not know his identity, right? Or was Xia Pingan using that dream to hint at something and claim credit? But even if it was a hint, this was not right. Dreams were divined for the future, not the past. Was Xia Pingan talking nonsense? Or did he really have the ability to reveal good and bad fortune in dreams? Beitang Wangchuan was very clear about the methods of the dream seers in Shangjing City. It could be said that more than 90% of the dream seers in Shangjing City were scammers. They were the tricks of low-level summoners who were desperate and wanted to make a fortune. The way these dream seers scammed people was to first buy the Dream Master's Realm Pearl and the corresponding spiritual crystal at a high price. After fusing with the Dream Master's Realm Pearl and obtaining the dream playing technique, they would then use the dream playing technique as a cover to swindle people in Shangjing City. These scammers were very popular in the Shangjing City. Usually, they would be able to earn a lot of money. As long as they were eloquent, they would be able to earn back the money spent on the realm beads and spiritual wool crystals in less than 2 years. In the future, they would have the ability to make a living. Just now, the one who gave way at the side of the road was the vice principal of Dafeng Courtyard, Gu Fengshun. He has already recognized your highness. Inside the carriage, the elder next to Beitang Wangchuan spoke calmly. Gu Fengshun? Beitang Wangchuan finally freed his thoughts from the Duke of Zhou building. Why did he come to Tianyuan Bridge? Defang Courtyard is in charge of managing the Bounty Hunter Association and the Wandering Summoners in Shangjing City. Gu Fengshen also likes to collect spiritual will crystals and rare treasures from the demonic Dragon Palace. I heard that he often goes to Pengwan Auction House to pick up items. It is not strange for him to come to Tianyuan Bridge. He should have just left the auction house, Beitang Wangchuan nodded. However, he was still thinking about how to deal with that Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan was undoubtedly a talent and was also a skywalker. He should be very useful, but he was not easy to control. Furthermore, Xia Pingan was related to Cao Cao. Cao Cao had never been so concerned about another man before. However, with Xia Pingan's current status, how could he be worthy of Cao Cao? Or perhaps, Cao Cao could completely tie Xia Pingan down and use Xia Pingan to gather those skywalkers for his use. The Crown Prince's thoughts were already half that of a ruler and half that of a human, making it difficult for people to guess. Just as Beitang Wangchuan's carriage left Tianyuan Bridge, a small green bird suddenly flew over from the sky. It was as fast as lightning, and the coachman caught it. He then passed the bird through a small hole in the front window of the carriage. The bird flew into the carriage and landed on Beitang Wangchuan's hand. From its beak, it spat out a small ball that was wrapped in talismans and wax. Beitang Wangchuan received the small ball and crushed it. A slip of paper appeared in his hand, and the bird also disappeared in a flash of light. Seeing that slip of paper, Beitang Wangchuan's expression changed. There was a line of words on the slip of paper. The Garrison Army's 3rd Division has more than 1,200 people infected with corpse poison and mutated. The 3rd Division's encampment has been completely sealed off. The Army commander of the 18th Division, Wei Tianlei, and the Judgment Army have already gone to deal with it. When he saw the 2 words, corpse poison, Beitang Wangchuan's hand that was holding the slip of paper could not help but tremble. Corpse poison, that was the Blood Demon Church's most insane method. Once a normal person was infected, they would turn into a blood demon zombie in an instant. They would be bloodthirsty and would not recognize their own family. Moreover, there was no cure for the corpse poison. Once infected, the only path left was to destroy the body. This was the Blood Demon Church's revenge. The Blood Demon Church had already made a comeback. Infecting the Garrison Army with corpse poison was a blatant show of strength. If the corpse poison spread through the capital, the consequences would be unthinkable. Beitang Wangchuan suddenly thought of the words that Xia Pingan had said when he read his dreams. He did not think that it would come true so quickly. Quickly return to the Imperial Palace. A voice came from within the carriage. The black carriage was still moving on the street, but a thick black fog filled the interior of the carriage. When the thick black fog disappeared, Beitang Wangchuan and the elder who had been sitting in the carriage had already disappeared in an instant. Inside the carriage, Child of Fortune, who had been hanging upside down like a bat in front of Beitang Wangchuan's eyes, nimbly turned around and landed on the seat in the carriage. Child of Fortune blinked, and in the next second, he also disappeared from the carriage. A few seconds later, Child of Fortune appeared in a military camp. This military camp was surrounded by mountains. It looked like it should be a place dozens of kilometers away from the capital. The military camp was in chaos. There were many corpses wearing military uniforms on the ground. Under the heavy machine guns' fire, the soldiers who rushed out of the barracks had blood spurting out of their bodies. Some of the soldiers were shot, but they still rushed forward as if they did not feel pain. They opened their bloody mouths and roared ferociously. There were also some who had their limbs broken by the heavy machine gun's bullet. They fell to the ground and were still twisting like zombies. The soldiers who rushed out of the barracks had blood-red eyes. Their joints were stiff, and they were twisting strangely. Mucus and pieces of flesh were hanging from the corners of their mouth. Some of them were holding bloody intestines and human organs in their hand. They were constantly rushing out of the barrack. Inside the barracks, gunshots were heard everywhere. The soldiers with guns were fighting with the soldiers who were eating people. The scene was like hell. Child of Fortune's figure passed through countless bullets and figures who were fighting to the death. A team of Judgment Army finally flew over. In an instant, countless fireballs flew out and fell on the red-eyed and twisted soldiers who did not feel pain, turning them into ashes. 2 people from the Judgment Army were like lightning amidst the flames and gunshots. They quickly rushed to the camp's dining hall and kitchen and took out half a pot of soup from the dining hall. The source of the corpse poison has been identified. The soup in the soldiers' dining hall was poisoned by someone. Order the entire army to immediately check all the food, water, and food reserves in the army's dining hall. Before the check is completed, no one is allowed to eat. A general of the Shang kingdom roared outside the camp. It's already noon. I'm hungry. Can I eat something? As a shopkeeper, you can't let your employees work with empty stomachs. He hurriedly came to the inner hall, touched his stomach with one hand, and said to Xia Pingan, who seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. At this moment, Xia Pingan was also shocked, because he had just seen all the images sent by Child of Fortune. He did not expect that the 18 garrison corps in Shangjing City would have an accident. Corpse poison? There was no doubt that the Blood Demon Church had returned. *T. This Shangjing City was not a safe place. Looking at Cao Cao, Xia Pingan stood up and thought for a moment, how about we cook noodles? Cao Cao suddenly became happy. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said with shining eyes, Okay, I want to eat the crab noodles you made last time. Chapter 238. On the first day of the Duke of Zhou building's opening, they only accepted one transaction and earned 100 gold coins. Ordinary citizens probably didn't know what had happened in the military camp, but the atmosphere in Shangjing City suddenly became tense. That was because when Xia Pingan bought a realm pearl at the Tianyuan Bridge night market that night, he saw a 5-man team of the Judgment Army patrolling the night market. Unless there was a special situation, the Judgment Army wouldn't easily appear in the city. Following the appearance of the Judgment Army, many people felt that the atmosphere in Shangjing City had changed. On the second day, the news that someone in the garrison army and Shangjing City had been infected with corpse poison had spread throughout the city. Everyone in Shangjing City started to panic. The news that the Blood Demon Church was making a comeback and wanted to turn Shangjing City into a ghost town started to spread like wildfire. As long as Xia Pingan walked around the streets, he would be able to hear the discussions going on in the taverns and tea-houses. On the second and third days, Xia Pingan's Duke of Zhou building didn't receive any business for 2 consecutive days. However, Xia Pingan had absorbed more than 10 realm pearls in these 2 days and steadily advanced to the 3-sun realm. On the morning of May 31st, Xia Pingan's Duke of Zhou building had just opened when Xia Pingan welcomed his second customer. It was a middle-aged man in his 50s who lived like a prince. Xia Pingan received him in the inner hall. Sir, you look a little unfamiliar. May I know your name? Xia Pingan asked with a smile. My surname is Gu. The man carefully smiled and even looked a little humble as he watched Cao Cao leave. Then, he turned to look at Xia Pingan. I was passing by today and saw the signboard at your door. It's a little interesting, so I would like to invite you to try taking a dream. This person knew Cao Cao's identity. Upon seeing this man's expression, Xia Pingan understood. This was really strange. 2 people had come to his door consecutively, yet they both knew Cao Cao. What kind of luck was this? Could this man have been called over by Beiteng Wangchuan? Or did he have other motives? Xia Pingan's mind spun, but he still asked, What dream does Mr. Gu want to have? Yesterday, I had a dream. I dreamt that I was wearing a brand new brocade robe. I wonder what this dream meant. Gu Fengshan asked. let me perform a dream." As he spoke, Xia Pingan had already used a secret technique and projected that person's dream for a careful look. Dream seers didn't necessarily need to use the dream divination technique. As long as the person who came for the divination could explain their dream clearly, it would be fine. However, among the dream seers in Shangjing City, everyone was used to using the dream divination technique to strengthen their identity. Those who came for the divination would only feel assured after seeing the dream divination technique. Therefore, the dream divination technique slowly became the symbol of a dream seer. Of course, to a dream soothsayer, there was another meaning to the dream soothsayer, which was that they could discover important details in the dream world that were overlooked by those who requested the soothsayer. In the dream world, the surroundings were a little blurry. There were clouds of fog, but one could see that the man in front of him was wearing a brand new brocade robe. He was looking at his brocade robe in the fog and was very happy. Xia Pingan waved his hand lightly and the dream world dissipated. "Does Mr. Gu have a wife or concubine at home?" Xia Pingan asked. This question caused Gu Fengshan's expression to change slightly. He was a little embarrassed, cough cough. "I only have one wife at home." Thinking of his wife, Gu Fengshan shuddered in his heart. His wife was one of the famous Shangjing's 3 tigers, in the circle of Shangjing City. Although he was quite impressive outside, and was considered a figure in the imperial court, at home, he had to listen to his wife. It was very normal for the heads of the wealthy families in Shangjing City to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. The man in front of him was someone who could recognize people and spend 100 gold coins for a soothsayer. He should not be the kind of person who lacked money. However, such a person only had one wife. If the 2 of them were not deeply in love and could not tolerate a third person, then this man's wife could be a lioness from the east of the river. She could keep this man obedient and not dare to have any improper thoughts. However, the dream world of this man in front of him indicated that this man was not someone who was faithful to one woman until death. Therefore, there was only the second possibility. Xia Pingan's thoughts turned and a smile appeared on his face. In the next few days, Mr. Gu's virtuous wife will take in a concubine for Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu is blessed. Gu Fengshan's expression did not change much, but he was somewhat stunned. The tigress at home was taking in a concubine for him? That was impossible. Unless the sun rose from the west, this dream soothsayer was completely spouting nonsense. Although this was what he thought, Gu Fengshan did not say it out loud. He only smiled and thanked Xia Pingan before taking his leave. When he walked out of the Duke of Zhou building, Gu Fengshan was still wondering if he had made a mistake. Had the crown prince only come here to see his sister and not to read dreams? He had heard that the Wangyu princess often ran out of the palace and liked to fool around outside. Today, he had seen it for himself. However, he did not know what ability this Yang Qing had to be able to make the Wangyu princess his assistant. Perhaps this Duke of Zhou building was opened by the Wangyu princess herself for fun, Gu Fengshan thought to himself as he got into the carriage. Just as he got into the carriage, another carriage immediately stopped in front of the Duke of Zhou building. The carriage door opened and Manager Lan of the Fearless House, who was dressed in a long purple robe, alighted. He looked up and sized up the Duke of Zhou building. The corners of his eyes twitched. After taking a deep breath, he walked into the Duke of Zhou building with his chest puffed out. In the inner hall of the Duke of Zhou building, "Do you know that person just now?" Xia Pingan deliberately asked Cao Cao. Cao Cao immediately appeared a little nervous. "No way. Who is he? How would I know? I think the way he looked at you was a little strange," Xia Pingan asked as he stroked his chin. "Don't those oily uncles always have that kind of expression when they see a beautiful girl like me? It's so disgusting." Cao Cao stuck out her tongue. "All right, here's your commission." Xia Pingan tossed a gold coin to Cao Cao. Chow Chow took the gold coin from Xia Pingan and gloomily returned to the outer hall. Seriously, there was no sense of accomplishment at all. Chow Chow grumbled in her heart. At that moment Chow Chow, who had just returned to the outer hall, saw someone she did not know behind the entrance. Cao Cao's eyes lit up. She could finally earn a gold coin openly. She immediately walked over and asked with a smile, "Sir, are you here to divine dreams?" Cao Cao's beauty dazzled Lan Wui's eyes. Lan Wei thought, it turns out that Xia Pingan is also a lecher. Once he has money, he hides women in a golden house in Shangjing City. This guy really knows how to enjoy life. Yes, I'm here to divine dreams. Lan Wei said. Mr. Yang is still inside. Sir, please come with me. Chow Chow directly led Lan Wei to the inner hall. Seeing Lan Wei, Xia Pingan knew that His Highness the Crown Prince had sent someone here. The one who left just now should be a coincidence. This was the real master. If it wasn't for His Highness the Crown Prince's orders, the chances of him meeting this person in Shangjing City was almost negligible. Chow Chow closed the door and left. Looking at Lan Wei, who was staring at him with shining eyes, Xia Pingan smiled bitterly. He directly took off the Rui mask on his face and revealed his original face. Shopkeeper Lan, long time no see. Lan Wei smiled bitterly and pretended to be enthusiastic. You should contact me. I thought something happened to you. If something happened to you, I'm also responsible. Ahem, I haven't received any news from the Blood Demon sect recently. I plan to change my identity and lurk in Shangjing City. I didn't expect to be discovered by you, Shopkeeper Lan, really? I know you're the most conscientious. The superiors didn't misjudge you. This is my duty as a shadow guard. The two men pretended to be polite, both of them pretending that Xia Pingan had never left the shadow guards from the beginning to the end. Xia Pingan didn't ask Lan Wei how he knew he was hiding here. Lan Wei also didn't mention that Xia Pingan had disappeared after the last mission. Based on his words, Lan Wei seemed to be fawning on Xia Pingan. After a few polite words, the two sides didn't seem to be so awkward. The atmosphere also eased a lot. Lan Wei finally revealed his purpose. Last time, the Blood Demon sect assassinated the Crown Prince. The superiors are very satisfied with the information you provided. They want to reward you. Oh, what kind of reward? Xia Pingan knew that the Real show was coming. Ahem, in view of your previous contributions, Lin Yi has decided to promote you to the inspector. I congratulate the inspector here. I wish you a bright future. Speaking of Xia Pingan's new position, Lan Wei was a little jealous. His tone also became more respectful. Chapter 239. There were many unexpected twists and turns in the human world. When Xia Pingan thought that he would no longer have any contact with the Judgment Army and was preparing to become self-employed, he unexpectedly received a big gift from the Judgment Army. Of course, this gift did not come from the Judgment Army, but from the Crown Prince, Beitang Wangchuan. Beitang Wangchuan wanted to pull him back into the Judgment Army and entrust him with an important task. However, he was just a small figure in the Judgment Army. Beitang Wangchuan had never seen him before, but he recognized him the first time they met that day. The biggest possibility was that he already knew his identity in the Judgment Army. At the same time, he also found out from the Blood Demon Church that he was a spacewalker and was being hunted down by them. While knowing his identity, he still wanted to promote him. The intention behind this appointment was thought-provoking. If he remembered correctly, the position of inspector in the Judgment Army was the title of a black bishop. Seeing that Xia Pingan was not too excited, Lan Wei continued to explain, "The arrest warrant issued by the police station for you has been revoked. Sir, you are now free and can return to your original appearance to move around in public. Sir, you don't have to worry." Unknowingly, Lan Wuwei had begun to address Xia Pingan as Sir. The title, Sir, in the Shang dynasty and the Judgment Army could only be enjoyed when one reached a certain level. At the very least, one had to be a black bishop to enjoy this title. The position of a black bishop was above that of a bishop. If he was not in Shangjing City, a black bishop would be equivalent to the highest person in charge of the Dark War God Church in an ordinary city. His previous title in the Dark War God Church was auxiliary priest. Now that he had been promoted by 3 levels, he had directly skipped the 2 levels of priest and bishop to become a black bishop. Judging from Lan Wuwei's words, he still did not know that he was a spacewalker and was being hunted down by the Blood Demon Church. Only Beitang Wangchuan and the higher-ups of the Judgment Army knew that he was a spacewalker. After thinking for a moment, Xia Pingan slowly opened his mouth. "May I ask, what am I responsible for as an inspector?" 2 days ago, the envoy inspector of the Eastport Supervision Office in Shangjing City failed to fuse with the Realm Pearl and was seriously injured. There is no one in charge of the Eastport Supervision Office. If Lord takes over, you will be in charge of the Eastport Supervision Office. Lan Wuwei said, "You must have heard a lot of news in Shangjing City in the past 2 days. The Blood Demon sect is making a comeback, stirring up trouble in Shangjing City and spreading corpse poison. Everyone in Shangjing City is in a state of panic now. It's time to punish the military personnel. Please don't decline. This is why I want to leave the Dark Shadow Squad? Cough cough. Your lordship's identity as a shadow guard was exposed last time. This time, it can be considered as coming out from the shadows." Xia Pingan remained silent. He was still pondering and hesitating. The east port of Shangjing City has always been prosperous, with good and bad people mixed in. The position of the East Port Supervision Office is a lucrative one. In that position, you can enjoy the cultivation resources provided by the Judgment Army. You can also get whatever you want. In addition to gold coins, you can also get some rare cultivation resources easily. To be honest, even if Lord's Duke Zhou building is crowded every day, it can't be compared with the envoy inspector's job. F***ck. Did Beitang Wangchuan know that I want to make money? He actually arranged such a lucrative job for me. Lord, you can consider it. If you make up your mind, you can take up the position in the Eastport Supervision Office at any time. By the way, this is the reward you received for the information you provided last time, as well as your envoy inspector's token and uniform." As Lan Wuwei spoke, he moved his hand and put a big box in front of Xia Pingan. After putting these things down, Lan Wuwei tactfully excused himself. After Lan Wuwei left, Xia Pingan put on his wishful mask again and opened the box. The box was divided into 2 layers. On the top layer, there was a golden envoy inspector's token of the Judgment Army. Under the token, there was a banknote worth 50,000 gold coins. This reward was generous enough. If it was an ordinary person, they could buy a house in Shangjing City and live a good life with this reward. On the bottom layer of the box, there was the Black Bishop's robe and an exquisite magic staff that symbolized the Black Bishop's authority. Looking at those things, Xia Pingan rubbed his nose. Beitang Wangchuan had given him a heavy responsibility and had also given him room to choose. This was rather interesting. Who knew what he would face after this if he chose to refuse? "Ah, what's this?" Cao Cao's voice came from outside the door. As soon as Cao Cao entered the inner hall, she saw the box on Xia Pingan's table. She walked over to take a look and picked up the envoy inspector's token. She was dumbfounded. "This is, Cao Cao, I forgot to tell you. I'm a member of the Judgment Army's Shadow Squad. I have a new task now." Xia Pingan smiled and made a decision in his heart. Since Beitang Wangchuan did not mind his identity as a spacewalker and had expressed his intentions, then he would lean on a big tree and enjoy the shade. The most important thing was to use the Judgment Army and the Shang dynasty as a big tree to quickly strengthen his strength. Anyway, he was mortal enemies with the sovereign demon god. If he weakened and attacked the blood demon church, he would fight for more opportunities and living space for the spacewalkers from Earth. However, the business of the Dream Seer at the Duke of Zhou's building had just begun. It would be a pity if he gave it up. In the future, I'll make it so that those who want to read my dreams have to make an appointment in advance. This way, it will make me look more impressive and more in line with my status. A master of reading dreams like me can't just pay for it. I have to make an appointment. Translator's note. In any case, he only needed to divine the dreams of 3 people each time. It would not take long. The Duke of Zhou's building has only been open for a few days. You're not going to be a dream seer anymore? Cao Cao asked, somewhat disappointed and annoyed. She thought that Beitang Wangchuan did not want her to continue messing around outside, so Yang Cheng was put in an important position by the Judgment Army and given a new position. In reality, the reason behind this was more complicated than she had imagined. Of course the Duke of Zhou's building will be open. Why wouldn't it be open? However, in the future, if you want to come and divine the dreams, you have to queue up and make an appointment. Once 3 people have been booked, I will find time to come here and divine the dreams of others. Then what should I do? Cao Cao pouted. Could it be that you want me to guard this empty room all day? Wouldn't that be boring to death? Xia Pingon spread his hands. That's simple. I'll hire another person and get him to guard this place for me to register the guests who want to come and divine the dreams. 3 people at a time. Once there are enough people, inform me. I will arrange a time for them to come here and divine their dreams. When the time comes, you can continue to be my assistant. This was the idea that Xia Pingon had thought of. It was just like using a bamboo cage to catch fish. Usually, he would place the bamboo cage in the water and wait for the fish to enter the cage before harvesting them. This was simple. When Cao Cao heard this, she clapped her hands and laughed again. Not bad, not bad. Let's do it this way. When the guests come and make an appointment, we will come again. This way, we won't have to guard this place all day. I think you don't need to hire anyone else. I have a few maidservants at my side. I'll choose the smarter one and have her watch the shop. What do you think? Xia Pingon smiled. That's the best. Although he said this, Xia Pingon thought that this princess would be a partner of Duke Zhou's building. It would be interesting to partner with the princess to open a shop. However, Xia Pingon could also see that Cao Cao just liked to play. She had a young girl's temperament. She felt that this was something new and wanted to try it. She didn't have any bad intentions. When she felt bored, she might want to try other things and put this matter aside. I didn't expect that you could become the envoy inspector of the Judgment Army. When are you going to take up the post? Don't tell me it's today. Cao Cao took a look at the token and asked directly. From Cao Cao's tone, he only felt that the envoy inspector of the Judgment Army was a small official who could do anything. There was nothing special about it. These days, the Blood Demon sect may be stirring up trouble in Shangjing City. The corpse poison has made people panic. Many people may die. I'm going to take up the post tomorrow and do my part. Oh, you should say that. Saving people is indeed more important than reading people's dreams. Cao Cao nodded sensibly. But before you take up the post tomorrow, can I ask you for a favor? What's the matter? Cao Cao then licked her lips as her beautiful eyes started to shine again. Before you leave, can you cook the Buddha jumps over the wall that you made last time? I'll watch from the side. Don't worry, I won't pass your secret recipe to others. I've helped you for a few days and only earned 2 gold coins. You should compensate me. It's not too much, okay. Chapter 240. His Majesty has finished his Western tour and will return to Shangjing City in a few days. Zombie poison was found in Shangjing City's Shi town yesterday. A family of 4 was infected. The Judgment Army has dealt with it in time. The Shangjing City Police Station reminds you that if you find any suspicious person, report it in time and you can receive a reward of up to 10,000 gold coins. The black rental carriage was running merrily on the street. The pedestrians on the street were in a hurry. The carriage was wearing raincoats and hiding under the carriage shed. They wiped the rain on their faces and continued to drive the carriage. Outside the window, the rain was falling non-stop. The raindrops hit the window. The entire Shangjing City was shrouded in a misty rain and the sky was lead gray. Xia Pingon sat in the carriage. He was not wearing the wishful mask on his face. Instead, he had returned to his original appearance. He was wearing a black robe. He looked at the newspaper he had received in the morning. His fingers tapped on the window gently. His mind was working quickly. Today was the second day, the 1st of June. The heavy rain today seemed to indicate the arrival of the rainy season in Shangjing City. After meeting with Lan Wei yesterday, Xia Pingon directly threw the key to the Duke of Zhou building to Cao Cao. Early in the morning, Xia Pingon was ready to go to the Donggang Inspection Department to take up his post. The matter of the Duke of Zhou building was completely handed over to Cao Cao. These days, there were 4 or 5 cases of zombie poison reported in the newspaper. However, other than the garrison army incident, there were not many people who were poisoned in the other cases. At least 1 or 2 people were poisoned, and at most 7 or 8 people were poisoned. Moreover, these zombie poisons did not cause much of an impact and were already suppressed by the Judgment Army. Even so, the entire Shangjing City was still in a state of panic. The people who were poisoned had turned into ashes. However, the members of the Blood Demon Church who poisoned them were not found. There were also no useful clues. It was no wonder that the people in Shangjing City were somewhat frightened. To be honest, Xia Pingon had some sympathy for the Judgment Army and Beitang Wangchuan. This was because it was too easy to hide a few people in such a bustling city like Shangjing City. The current situation was that the enemy was in the dark while they were in the open. It was really not an easy task for the Judgment Army to catch them. Ordinary people needed to face each other to use poison. However, for a summoner who had mastered more powerful spells, as long as they had corpse poison in their hands, it was too easy for them to harm others. They could do it without anyone noticing. The people who had been infected by the ptomaine in the newspaper had nothing in common with each other. Some of them were infected when they returned home from work, some were infected when they returned from the market, some were infected when they didn't go anywhere at home, and some were infected after eating a meal in a roadside restaurant. How were they supposed to investigate this? To the Great Zhou country and the Judgment Army, finding the hidden Blood Demon Church members was even harder than killing the Blood Demon Church members that had already appeared. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why Beitang Wangchuan promoted him. After all, he had a brilliant battle record before. Xia Pingon even suspected that Beitang Wangchuan might have guessed that he had successfully integrated with the illusory child, Realm Pearl. However, what he didn't expect was that he didn't summon the illusory child but the child of fortune. The emperor of the Shang dynasty was Beitang Zhaotian. He had been touring the West and had not been in Shangjing City. Everything in Shangjing City was presided over by Beitang Wangchuan. Xia Pingon wasn't sure if Beitang Zhaotian had returned to Shangjing City this time because of the dangerous situation facing Shangjing City. However, the newspapers in Shangjing City had placed the news of Beitang Zhaotian's return in the most eye-catching place. This undoubtedly had the effect of calming people's hearts and warning them. When Xia Pingon finished reading the newspaper in the rental carriage, the carriage had already arrived at the Donggang district of Shangjing City. Yes, the Donggang district was a district on the east side of Shangjing City near the sea. The docks were all here. Xia Pingan was not unfamiliar with the Donggang district. He could even be said to be familiar with it. The Donggang district was very rich, but there were also many poor people. Every day there would be a large number of people and goods coming and going. The entire Donggang district was shrouded in rain and fog. The carriage directly arrived at the Donggang district's Sea God Avenue and stopped outside the gate of a 3-story building made of granite. "Sir, we've arrived." The coachman got off the carriage, opened an umbrella, and opened the door of the carriage. "You've worked hard." Xia Pingan also opened his own black umbrella. When he got off the carriage, he gave the driver an extra silver coin. Finally, after the driver thanked him, Xia Pingan directly walked towards the building on the side of the road. The driver glanced at the pure copper signboard outside the building and quickly drove the carriage away. Outside the iron gate of the building, there was only one line of words on the signboard: Donggang District Inspection Office of the Ruling Army. The raindrops falling from the sky washed the signboard exceptionally bright. The cyan granite of the building became darker after being drenched by the rain. The gate was wide open. Inside the gate was a courtyard with a spacious lawn and a fountain. Behind the fountain was a staircase that led to the top floor of the building. Xia Pingan didn't see anyone standing guard, but in the gatehouse next to the gate, there was a gray-haired old man and a dog. They were sleeping in the gatehouse. The inspection office of the ruling army was an important place. Its status was even higher than that of the Donggang police station. Therefore, it could not be as lax as it seemed. Xia Pingan glanced at the old man in the gatehouse and found that the dog beside the old man was a real dog instead of a summoned one. The dog was sleeping soundly on the ground. The old man's aura was a bit weird. He seemed to be a one-sun realm cultivator, yet he was not. In front of the old man, there was a lamp on the table in the gatehouse. When Xia Pingan entered the gate, the lamp's flame flickered. The drowsy old man raised his head. Only then did Xia Pingan discover that the old man was blind in one of his eyes. The remaining eye was also a little more than 100 black, which looked a little strange. When the old man raised his head and looked at Xia Pingan felt that the trajectory of the raindrops started to change, as if they had turned into a net. Under the light of the raindrops, Xia Pingan could faintly see runes fluctuating under the granite ground under his feet. Interesting. The runic spell on the ground was a spell to create a prison. It was about to be activated, and the raindrops above his head changed their trajectory. He should be using water to cast a net spell. The summoning spells of a summoner were not unchanging. Some summoning spells would change as the summoner's ability and divine power improved, their understanding deepened, their proficiency in using spells increased, or their interaction with other spells. For example, summoning a net. Ordinary summoners would use divine power to summon a net, but some summoners could bestow water or fire elemental abilities to the net when summoning it. A water elemental net would be more difficult to deal with than an ordinary net in today's heavy rain. It would also be more difficult to break free from. It would also have a stronger restraining effect on some creatures. The old man in the gatehouse should be able to use water to cast the net summoning technique. Xia Pingan actually had this ability as well. Xia Pingan didn't say anything. He just took out his envoy inspector token and showed it to the old man. In an instant, the raindrops in the sky seemed to return to normal, and the ground didn't change at all. The sleepy old man suddenly became energetic. He stopped sleeping and kicked the sleeping dog. A man and a dog ran out of the gatehouse. The dog ran fast, but the old man was limping. He didn't care about the raindrops falling on him. The dog wagged its tail while the old man gave Xia Pingan a humble and fawning smile, revealing a mouthful of smoky yellow teeth. "Lord Inspector, I didn't expect you to take office today." I'm sorry. I'll call them down to welcome you, no need. I'll go by myself. By the way, what's your name? You're quite alert." Xia Pingan looked at the old man and found that, except for one blind eye, the old man's 2 legs were prosthetic. No wonder he walked awkwardly. Lord, you can call me Luoleoyo. I'm the gatekeeper of the supervision department of Donggang. I'm here to make a living. Fine, I'll go upstairs myself. Is it the 2nd floor? It's on the 2nd floor. You can enter it by pushing the door. Xia Pingan then walked towards the stairs behind the fountain. When he reached the top of the stairs, Xia Pingan turned around and saw Luoleoyo and his dog humbly seeing him off in the rain. He waved his hand. Luoleoyo then went back to his gatehouse with his dog and started to take a nap. After coming to the front of the thick copper-covered wooden door at the entrance of the 2nd floor, Xia Pingan put his umbrella into his space teleportation equipment and casually pushed the door open. Behind the door was a long aisle. The wooden floor was covered with a thick red carpet. Various paintings and artworks were hung on both sides of the wall. This place looked very stylish, like a museum. In front of the aisle was an antechamber. Behind the marble front desk, a beautiful woman in her 20s was sitting there. At the sight of this woman, Xia Pingan felt that the world was too small. Because this woman was Wei Meiyu, the beautiful mathematician from the Grand Shang Library in Shangjing City. Wei Meiyu was wearing a light green top with a white and black lace shirt underneath. She was wearing a pair of gray trousers and high heels. She looked natural and graceful and pleasing to the eye. It was out of Xia Pingan's expectation that Wei Meiyu would be here. Xia Pingan's footsteps were not heavy. Therefore, when he arrived at the front desk, Wei Meiyu, who had been writing something with her head lowered, noticed that someone had arrived. "Sir, excuse me. It's you. Why are you here?" Seeing Xia Pingan coming here, Wei Meiyu immediately stood up from behind the desk. When she was about to ask Xia Pingan what happened, she immediately recognized Xia Pingan. How could Wei Meiyu forget Xia Pingan? At the sight of Xia Pingan, Wei Meiyu was both surprised and delighted. Her mind was filled with thoughts while her cheeks instantly blushed. Before Xia Pingan opened his mouth, another woman's voice sounded from not far away. She said coldly, "Brat, how dare you bully people in the Donggang Supervision Department? I'm going to settle accounts with you." As soon as the voice fell, Xia Pingan felt a fireball flying towards his head. The temperature of the fireball wasn't high, and it wasn't big either. If it landed on his head, it wouldn't kill him. However, his hair would probably be completely burned off, and his head would be burnt to a pulp, turning into a pig's head. What the hell is this? Xia Pingan did not expect that someone would dare to throw a fireball at his head here. Chapter 241. At the sight of the fireball flying towards her, Wei Meiyu's eyes widened at once. With a hint of panic on her face, she shouted, "Elder Sister Qin, don't." Of course, Xia Pingan would not let the fireball hit his head. Just as the fireball flew to Xia Pingan's side and was about to hit his head, Xia Pingan turned his head. He didn't seem to have done anything, but a small water shield appeared in the air. When the fireball hit the water shield changed from a shield shape to a ball shape and wrapped around the fireball. There was no explosion, no fluctuation. There was only a soft chi sound in the air, like a red-hot needle falling into water. The fireball and the water ball disappeared at the same time. Everything disappeared into nothingness. The clouds were calm and the wind was gentle, as if nothing had happened. The woman was greatly shocked. Of course, she knew that her fireball would not kill anyone. However, it was her first time to see a water-summoning skill that could extinguish the fireball without causing an explosion. Additionally, the flame and water vapor of the fireball didn't disperse at all. Additionally, the water shield even changed its shape from a shield to a sphere. It was her first time to see such a perfect scene without any smoke or fire. Master, he's definitely a master. A thought flashed across the woman's mind. However, Didn't Wei Meiyu say that the scumbag who had been pestering her had just become a summoner? Even if he had mastered some water summoning skills, he couldn't control them so precisely and subtly. Xia Pingan looked at the woman with long red hair and a hot figure in a leather windbreaker. Although her lips were a bit thick, she looked sexier and carried an exotic charm. He then said calmly, "Miss, if you cast the fireball indiscriminately on a person, you might kill him." "Elder Sister Qin, he's my friend, not that man." Wei Meiyu patted her chest nervously and hurriedly explained. Being stared at by Xia Pingan, the red-haired woman also felt a bit guilty. However, she pretended to be indifferent as she shrugged her shoulders and said, "Did I make a mistake? I'm sorry. As a man, you're not that stingy, right? By the way, your water summoning skill is pretty good. Where did you learn it from?" "I learned it by myself." Xia Pingan smiled faintly as he threw this trivial matter to the back of his mind. That red-haired woman walked over. After taking a look at Xia Pingan and Wei Meiyu, she revealed an "I know" expression as she directly told Xia Pingan, "The supervision office is an important place where the Judgment Army handles cases. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. How dare you come here to look for Meiyu? Don't do it again. Hurry up and leave. Old Luo, how dare he let you in? I didn't expect that he had the potential to be a matchmaker at his age." Blushing, Wei Meiyu secretly glanced at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan helplessly looked at the red-haired oolong woman. Without saying anything, he just took out his inspector's token and said, "I think you've misunderstood. I'm here to take up my post. The concierge here is very dutiful." "What's your name?" Mr. Inspector." The red-haired woman was dumbfounded at the sight of the token that Xia Pingan took out. She hurriedly stood at attention and broke out in a cold sweat. Wei Meiyu also widened her eyes. She had never expected that Xia Pingan had such a high status. When Xia Pingan saved her last time, she thought that Xia Pingan was just an ordinary person. "Inspector, oh my God!" Wei Meiyu covered her mouth with her hand in surprise. "Mr. Inspector, my name is Huazichin." No matter how carefree she was, the red-haired woman couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. She had just met the Mr. Inspector, and she had already made 2 blunders in just a moment. First, she threw a fireball at the Mr. Inspector's head, and then misunderstood that the Mr. Inspector was looking for Wei Meiyu. "Oh no, this Mr. Inspector won't make things difficult for me in the future, right? Also, Meiyu is really too much. Why didn't she say that she knew such a big shot before?" The red-haired woman was extremely nervous. "Meiyu, take me to the Mr. Inspector's office." "Huazichin, right? Call the people in the inspection department who are still here. Let's get to know each other." A few minutes later, Xia Pingan saw the other people from the East Port Inspection Department of the Judgment Army in the Mr. Inspector's office. Including Wei Meiyu and Huazichin, there were a total of 42 people in the inspection department. Among these 42 people, there were only 18 non-summoners like Wei Meiyu. The other 24 people were all summoners of the Judgment Army. The 42 people, men and women of all shapes and sizes, all looked at Xia Pingan with different gazes. 1 or 2 of their gazes were even somewhat presumptuous and unconvinced because Xia Pingan was really too young. Xia Pingan took out his Mr. Inspector's token and showed it to everyone in public. Only then did those presumptuous gazes slightly restrain. "My name is Xia Pingan, the new Mr. Inspector of the East Port Inspection Department of the Judgment Army. It's my first time here, so I look forward to your guidance in the future." Xia Pingan smiled and swept his gaze across everyone's faces. "You're too kind, sir. You're young and promising. Please guide us in the future. I believe that under your leadership, the East Port Inspection Department will definitely become better and prosper day by day." A bald fat man in his 40s jumped out of the crowd with a smile and flattered Xia Pingan with a flattering look. When this guy was flattering, Xia Pingan found that everyone in the room looked normal. No one showed any disdain, and they were not surprised at all. What did this mean? This meant that this guy who was flattering him just now had a glib style, and everyone was used to it. Everyone, please introduce yourselves. What's your name? What's your specific position? What's your responsibility? Mayu, let's start with you. The last time I saw you, you were in the library. I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a few days, you'd already come to the inspection department. Xia Pingan pointed at Wei Mayu, who was standing on the far left. Wei Mayu stepped forward shyly and said in a low voice, "My name is Wei Mayu. I've just been admitted to the Donggang Supervision Office. My job here is to manage documents and do some secretarial and administrative work." After introducing herself, Wei Mayu stepped back. Xia Pingan nodded as his eyes fell on a fat middle-aged woman with curly hair in a loose floral skirt beside Wei Mayu. This middle-aged woman was not a summoner. "My name is Lu Ping. I'm the accountant of the East Port Inspection Department. I'm responsible for the accounts and fund management of the inspection department." Beside Lu Ping was a gentle girl in her 20s. After Lu Ping introduced herself, that girl stepped forward and said, "My name is Zhang Xiaoqi. I'm the cashier of the inspection department. I'm responsible for connecting the bank and the material management of number 2 warehouse." Just like that, everyone introduced themselves one by one in front of Xia Pingan. Within the inspection department, there were 18 non-summoners, including Wei Mayu, who were in charge of administration, finance, internal affairs, boiler and property management, warehouse management, chefs, and other logistical work. There were both men and women, and their ages ranged from 20 to 60 years old. Apart from these people, the other 24 people were all action team members of the inspection department. Their strength was basically between the 1 Sun realm and the 2 Sun realm. There were a total of 30 action team members in the inspection department. They were divided into 6 small teams of 5 people each. 5 people from team number 2 had gone out to patrol this morning and had yet to return. There was also a member of team number 1 who was injured in the previous operation and was being treated in the hospital. He probably would not return for a few months. The others were all here. Hua Ziqin, who had thrown the fireball at Xia Pingan's head earlier, was the captain of team number 3. The bald fatty who had sucked up to Xia Pingan was the captain of team number 6. His name was Situ Hua. Situ Hua had worked in the inspection department for almost 20 years and was a standard old fox. Those who had become captains were all 2 Sun realm summoners. The captain of team number 1 was called Fan Gang. He was a man in a black robe who was silent and had a gloomy temperament like Professor Snape. The captain of team number 4 was called Fong Nu. He was well built and had thick eyebrows and thin eyes. He looked like a gold medal fighter in the underworld. His temperament was somewhat similar to Tupolu's. At first glance, one could tell that he was the kind of man who liked to use violence to solve problems. It was also this guy who looked at Xia Pingan with a somewhat unbridled and unbridled gaze. The captain of team number 5 was called Dong Men-yong. He looked like he was in his 20s and looked gentle. He wore a pair of tortoiseshell glasses that made him look like an old man. He had a harmless smile on his face at all times and looked like a rookie in turn. However, Xia Pingan would not be fooled by this person because anyone who could become a captain in the inspection department was definitely not an ordinary person. The summoners who could join the Judgment Army had gone through a strict selection process. All of them were outstanding and elite summoners. There were no fools among them. Xia Pingan, who had personally participated in the selection process of the Judgment Army, had a deep understanding of this. From today onwards, Mayu will be my secretary. Your office will be moved to the room outside my office. Situ Hua will stay. The rest of you may leave. Xia Pingan said to everyone. A few people in the crowd glanced at Wei Mayu. Wei Meiyu's face was burning as she lowered her head and looked at her toes. Most of them were expressionless, but Sidu Hua was a little surprised. He did not know why Xia Pingan wanted him to stay. In the blink of an eye, only Xia Pingan and the bald fatty, Sidu Hua, were left in the huge office. "Have a seat." Xia Pingan pointed at the chair in front of the desk and gestured for Sidu Hua to sit. Sidu Hua was unusually cautious. He only sat down with half of his buttocks leaning against the chair with a smile on his face. "Sir, may I know why you've asked me to stay?" Xia Pingan personally poured 2 cups of tea and placed 1 cup in front of Sidu Hua. Sidu Hua was so flattered that he quickly stood up but was pressed down by Xia Pingan's shoulder. "You've been in the inspection department for a long time, so you must be very familiar with the situation in the inspection department and the East District. I asked you to stay because I want to ask you about the real situation in the inspection department and the East District." Sidu Hua breathed a sigh of relief when he heard what Xia Pingan said. His expression relaxed as he quickly said, "Sir, what do you want to know? I'll definitely tell you everything I know. I just want to ask how the inspector earns money?" Xia Pingan asked directly. Cough. Sidu Hua, who had just taken a sip of water, choked and coughed when he heard Xia Pingan's question. P.S. The second chapter was updated slightly later today. Chapter 242. Even if Sidu Hua was beaten to death, he would never have thought that the new envoy inspector would actually ask him this question. What was he doing? Was he testing if he was clean, or was he treating him as someone he could trust? Was that why he was so direct, or was he just joking with him? Cough, cough, cough. Sidu Hua coughed loudly as if he had really choked. His face was flushed red, and using the opportunity of coughing, his mind quickly spun as he thought about how to answer. To be able to ask such a question, the envoy inspector was either an idiot or had a very powerful backer. So powerful that he did not have to worry about being investigated by the higher-up. That was why he was so unrestrained. Why? Is this question very difficult to answer? Don't tell me that you don't know. Xia Pingan looked at Sidu Hua calmly. Seeing Sidu Hua's small eyes rolling around non-stop, Xia Pingan knew that Sidu Hua was thinking about how to answer. He had revealed his true identity to attract the attention of the Blood Demon Church for the Crown Prince. The salary of the envoy inspector was the compensation for a high-risk job. Xia Pingan would not be polite. Even if Beitang Wanchuan knew, Xia Pingan was certain that Beitang Wanchuan would definitely not say a word. No, I was thinking about how to explain it to Sir. This explanation is a little complicated. Sidu Hua hurriedly said as his expression returned to normal. It's okay. We have plenty of time. You can speak slowly and I will listen slowly. Sidu Hua gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind. He began to speak with a serious expression. Cough, cough. Sir, you were talking about how to make money just now. Sir, your way of saying it was wrong. Oh, what's wrong? Xia Pingan squinted his eyes and asked with a smile. The expression on Sidu Hua's face was awe-inspiring, as if he was making a report. Sir, as the envoy inspector of the Eastport, the tens of thousands of business groups, businesses, and shops on the ground of the Eastport are safe and stable. The safety of the lives and properties of the millions of people in the Eastport, and the safety of the cargo ships of all sizes at the docks is all thanks to you. Although there is a police station in the Eastport, the police station can only deal with some ordinary matters, such as catching thieves, resolving disputes between ordinary people, and maintaining the order of the market. When the police station encounters summoners and people with various special abilities, ordinary policemen are not even considered cannon fodder. They still have to rely on us, the Judgment Army, and the Inspection Department to deal with them. Sir, do you think that your position is important? Xia Pingan stroked his chin. Now that you mention it, it is indeed very important. Of course, sir. Although we don't have many people in the inspection department, there are only about 30 summoners and 6 groups of people. However, the power and responsibilities of the inspection department are huge. As long as it's related to summoners, heretics like the Blood Demon Church, people with special abilities, or cases related to hostile forces, countries, and foreign races, we are in charge of all of them. We also have the responsibility of supervising and investigating traitors. We are the eyes, ears, and arms of the Judgment Army. Behind the inspection department stands the entire Judgment Army and His Majesty. Once something happens that we can't solve, we can immediately summon the combat strength of the Judgment Army. For ordinary organizations, the people of the inspection department are one level higher than the officials. Not to mention others, even the police chief and the district mayor of the Eastport have to be courteous to you. Sir, do you think that your position is important? It seems to be a bit important. Xia Pingon nodded with a serious expression. So, since you have such an important position and hold such great power, it's only natural for you to be treated well. It's also natural for you to earn some money to support your family. Don't you think so, sir? Situ Hua was agitated. Yes, you should. No one can work on an empty stomach. Xia Pingon sighed. Sir, you are right. Why do you need to earn money? That sounds so bad. Moreover, it's illegal to embezzle money. How could you do such a thing? I'm the first one who doesn't believe it. However, there are too many places in the Eastport that need your care and guidance. You have to find a way to take care of all of them, right? Otherwise, you will be derelict in your duties. Am I right, sir? That's right. Tell me, which places need my care? There are more than 470 large-scale brothels, bathhouses, restaurants, and clubs in the Eastport. These places have always been a mix of good and bad. Various Jianghu characters and summoners often visit these places, and there are often various disputes. Do you want me to take care of these places? Yes, of course. Therefore, the security of these places can't be taken care of by ordinary people. It must be taken care of by those security business groups that are reliable and trustworthy. Sir, you can guide those security business groups to work, maintain local order, provide them with business guidance, introduce jobs to them, take some shares in those security business groups, and earn some hard-earned money every month based on your ability. This is your income. It's clean and above board. Why do you need to earn money? Yes, it's indeed an income. It's clean and above board. Xia Pingon nodded, thinking, this is using the security business group as a white glove to accumulate wealth. Separated by such a layer, it is indeed much safer. Is there anything else? In addition, most of the things in the Eastport are those big ships and warehouses at the dock. All kinds of people gather in Shangjing City. The ships and warehouses at the docks are the key areas under the control of the inspection department. Heretics and dissidents of hostile forces often come to Shangjing by sea. Many commercial ships also hide prohibited items. Sir, you should pay more attention to these places. Those ship owners and the bosses and managers of the docks and warehouses also need your protection. Am I right, sir? Yes, you're right. How do I protect them? Docks, harbors, warehouses, and ships are most afraid of accidents. Once something happens in these places, it will be a big deal. Therefore, they have to buy insurance every year. If something happens to them, they will have to pay for the insurance so as not to go bankrupt. Which insurance company is reliable and powerful? It's up to you, sir. You should take some shares in the insurance company and get some bonus every month. Well, the white glove that makes money in these places has directly become an insurance company. This inspector really knows how to make money. Xia Pingon sighed inside as he continued to ask, what if the owners of these docks, harbors, warehouses, and ships don't buy the insurance company that I recommend? If they don't buy the insurance company that you think is reliable, they might have a guilty conscience. For example, for those warehouse owners and managers, you only need to wait until their warehouses are full of goods and then close them to check the suspicious items. Otherwise, you can ask the warehouse owners and managers to take out the goods and check them one by one. Those warehouse owners and managers will piss their pants. Once it involves a heretic, a summoner's case, a ship carrying prohibited items, or a sailor on the ship, you can detain the ship at the dock and make it unable to move. Those ship owners and managers will kneel down and beg you to let them go. It's the same for the docks. You only need to issue an arrest warrant or seal to make those people cry for their moms and dad. Ahem, of course you're honest and upright, so you won't do that. These methods are only used to deal with those with evil intentions. Is there anything else? There are also the various horse and carriage businesses, broker businesses, force businesses, and wine businesses in the East Harbor District that you have to take care of. These businesses are managed by various guilds and chambers of commerce. You don't have to explain to the people in these businesses. You only need to arrange for lawyers to be their legal advisors, and they will naturally understand and know what to do. If these businesses have disputes and bring them to you, you can be the arbiter, which is much more convenient than them going to court. So, look at how hard it is for you, sir. You have to take care of so many things, so who can say no to you earning some hard-earned money? F***ck, this position is indeed a lucrative one. You don't even have to use your own hands to make money. There's already a set of very mature rules of the game. Then what does the force businesses do? Xia Pingan asked. The force businesses are the coolies at the docks, harbors, ships, and warehouses. These coolies belong to 3 different gangs. In order to compete for business, it's very chaotic. Fighting and using knives are common, and occasionally, they will provoke some people and trouble that they shouldn't. Without your permission, these low-level force businesses can't survive in the East Harbor District. Chapter 243. In the East Harbor District, Your Excellency can earn some hard-earned money from these places. However, Your Excellency also knows that there are many nobles in Shangjing City. Those nobles' families also have various businesses, especially in the docks, harbors, ships, warehouses, insurance companies, wine shops, and guilds. These nobles' money can't be earned because they have their own connections. For the sake of your own future, Your Excellency has to take care of them. If these nobles' businesses encounter any trouble, Your Excellency will need your help to settle it. Of course, the shopkeepers who make money for these nobles are also shrewd people. They won't take the initiative to find trouble for Your Excellency. Usually, they also have some manners and get along well with each other. Sidu Hua honestly explained what kind of money could be earned and what kind of money could not be earned. Xia Pingan nodded as he roughly understood. What are the businesses run by those nobles in Shangjing City? There's Dachang, Shangxing Association, Deshun Long, Pingyun Merchant Group, Shangjing Insurance Company, Xuzhang Wharf, Wharf No. 7 to No. 21 in the Donggang District, Shuani Wine House, Baixiang Wine House, Unword Warehouse, Sihai Boat Society. Sidu Hua listed 70 to 80 names in one breath, as if he was familiar with his family treasures. If anything happens to these businesses, Your Excellency, you can either pretend not to see it or find someone to remind them. Don't make a big fuss. Okay, I see. Xia Pingan nodded and smiled. What about the salaries of the other people in the inspection department? The inspection department has 2 sources of income. The regular income of the inspection department is divided into 2 parts. One part is the allocation from the Judgment Army, which is about 17,000 gold coins per year. This money is used to maintain the daily expenses of the inspection department and everyone's salary. For me, the monthly salary of the inspection department is 59 gold coins. A summoner of the One Sun realm gets 39 gold coins. Sir, you get 89 gold coins. The salary of the other people in the inspection department is not much compared to us, but it's considered a high income among the ordinary people in Shangjing City. It's not bad. Other than this fixed salary, everyone's other income comes from the bonuses for handling cases. Haha, I didn't expect the summoners in this world to be superstitious. I wonder if the superstitious habits of the summoners on Earth came from this world. Xia Pingon thought to himself. Oh, how do we get the bonuses? It's very simple. For example, Your Excellency found a group of cultists who threatened Shangjing City in the Donggang district. After those cultists were eliminated, they would naturally leave some properties that could be seized. Cultists couldn't run around naked in Shangjing City, right? For example, some ship warehouses trafficked and stored contraband goods. We can also check them. 20% of the assets of the cultists, contraband goods that we seized and fines will be returned to the inspection department. Your Excellency has the right to decide how to distribute the money of the cultists in the inspection department. Generally, Your Excellency will own 30% of the profits and 70% of the rest. Of course, if something's Your Excellency or any risks you Excellency, Your Excellency. How much is this bonus? Sidu Hua smiled slyly and said, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. It depends on Your Excellency's ability and our luck. For example, when we investigated the Blood Demon sect a few days ago, those remnants of the Blood Demon sect had a lot of properties in Shangjing City. Some of them were extremely rich and didn't face much danger. The inspection department that was assigned to this task made a fortune. That's luck. Xia Pingon smiled slightly. What luck? I'm the one who paid dividends to the Judgment Army. Now that you mention it, it's indeed luck. By the way, what are you most afraid of when you work in the inspection department? The people working in the inspection department in Shangjing City are most afraid of encountering those inspectors who don't care about the lives of their subordinates and would push their subordinates out to take the blame. Your Excellency, believe it. There are many inspectors like that in Shangjing City. Whoever meets them will be unlucky. Sidu Hua sighed and said, it's not easy to establish a foothold in Shangjing City. Sidu Hua let out a sigh as he said, prices in Shangjing City are very high. It's not easy to establish a foothold in Shangjing City. Even our Judgment Army has limited cultivation resources. If we want to buy realm beads and spiritual sense crystals, we need to spend a lot of money. Based on our fixed salary, we can only afford 1 or 2 realm beads at most. If we want to start a family or get married outside, we will need to spend more money. Nobody dislikes the inspectors who can give us more bonuses. What do you think, Your Excellency? Hee, Sidu Hua was admonishing me in a roundabout way. Xia Pingon faintly smiled. Fine, I've got it. Go inform those directors of Lixing in Donggang District and Carriage and Horse Company that are under my care to come to the Supervision Department for tea this afternoon. I'll have a chat with them. Yes, Your Excellency. Sidu Hua hurriedly nodded. No, you can go now. Okay, I'll go. Sidu Hua nodded as he stood up from his seat. After retreating a few steps, he turned around, opened the door of the office and walked out. The moment Sidu Hua walked out, Wei Meiyu walked in. Wei Meiyu lowered her gaze and blushed slightly. She was a little reserved and didn't even dare to look at Xia Pingon's face. Until now, Wei Meiyu still felt that everything that had happened today was like a dream. She found it hard to believe that Xia Pingon, who had saved her, was actually a high-ranking envoy inspector. Of course, as a woman, it was inevitable for Wei Meiyu to have some special thoughts when she saw that Xia Pingon had asked her to be his secretary the moment she arrived. For a woman, the position of secretary was actually a very ambiguous position in the face of a man with a high position and power. The weird looks of those people in the inspection department just now were enough to explain everything. Your Excellency, The head chef asked me to ask if you want to arrange a welcome banquet for Your Excellency in the inspection department today. Also, do you have any dietary restrictions? Wei Meiyu asked in a low voice. Well, tell the head chef that there's no need for a welcome banquet. Everything will go on as usual. Also, I don't eat onion, garlic, chives, coriander and coriander. Onion, garlic, chives, and coriander were the 5 meat in the usual sense. Since he came into contact with some cultivation methods in his previous life, Xia Pingan did not eat these things. Meat made one dizzy. Although the summoners in this world did not abstain from food, Xia Pingan's eating habits remained. Well, okay, Wei Meiyu said as she was about to leave. Wait a minute. Xia Pingan stopped her. Wei Meiyu's body stiffened at once, and her cheeks became hotter. Your Excellency, is there anything else? Don't stand there, sit down and talk. Sitting in front of Xia Pingan, Wei Meiyu closed her legs tightly, put her hands on her knees, and grabbed the fingers of her left hand with her right hand. She was a bit nervous and tangled, afraid that Xia Pingan would suddenly come over and do something. Haha, don't be nervous. I forgot to ask you. Weren't you in the library before? Why did you come to the inspection department? Hearing that Xia Pingan didn't ask any strange questions and didn't come over, Wei Meiyu relaxed a bit and smiled. First, the treatment in the inspection department is better than that in the library. After entering the inspection department, I can enjoy the official establishment of the Shang nation's official civil servant. Second, when I was in the library, the son of a deputy director of the library always harassed me and wanted me to be his girlfriend. Therefore, I decided to leave the library and participate in the recruitment examination of the Shang nation's civil servant. That's how I got here. Oh, are you still living in that apartment? If you're still living there, it's quite far from here to work, isn't it? I've moved to an apartment in the Donggang district. It's not far from here. Every day I can get there by taking the trolley bus. Are you used to working here? Yes, it's pretty good. Sister Qin and the others take good care of me. After chatting with Wei Meiyu for a while, Xia Pingan let Wei Meiyu leave. After walking out of Xia Pingan's office, Wei Meiyu let out a long sigh of relief. She found that her fingers were full of sweat. However, for some reason, she felt a bit disappointed. After Wei Meiyu left, Xia Pingan didn't stay idle. He directly left the office and walked around the entire inspection department. He looked around the office of each team, the document room, the warehouse, the evidence room, the finance room, the equipment warehouse, the dining room, etc. Finally, Xia Pingan came to the underground prison of the inspection department. The underground prison of the inspection department was a bit like the detention center of a police station. It was located on the first and second basement floor of the inspection department. It wasn't an official prison cell. It was only used to temporarily imprison people who were arrested for various reasons. Of course, although it was temporary, the inspection department could still imprison you for 3 to 5 years. There were 5 internal guards of the inspection department guarding the underground prison of the inspection department. It was a perfect team. These internal guards were all strong people who knew a bit of martial arts. They weren't summoners and their daily jobs were very simple. Seeing the newly appointed inspector arrive at the entrance of the underground prison, the captain of the internal guard team, Qi Dafeng, was shocked. He hurriedly brought a few internal guards to tidy up their clothes and ran out of the duty room. They stood at attention and saluted Xia Pingan. My lord, why are you here? Qi Dafeng stammered nervously. Qi Dafeng was in his 50s. He was tanned and strong. One look and you could tell he was a very dutiful person. He had also been an internal guard of the inspection department for more than 10 years. I just came down to take a look. Xia Pingan smiled. The prison of the inspection department was much cleaner than he had imagined. Looking down from the entrance, the underground prison didn't feel dirty at all. There wasn't a speck of dust on the stone floor of the underground prison. The ventilation was smooth and the gas lamps on both sides of the corridor were lit. It looked very clean. Your management here is good. It's better than I thought. After receiving Xia Pinggan's praise, Qi Dafeng wasn't so nervous. He was a bit happy. The prison of the inspection department doesn't imprison many people. The serious criminals have all been transferred away. There are only about 10 people locked up now, so it's not that messy. Let's go. Accompany me to take a look. Yes? Qi Dafeng pulled himself together. He took the key and opened the prison door. He brought Xia Pinggan to patrol the underground prison. P.S. Today's second chapter will be slightly later. Chapter 244. The people locked up in the prison were all wearing black metal shackles on their necks, hands, and feet. The shackles were connected by black chains, and they were all squeezed into a cell that was more than 10 square meters in size. They looked at the group of people walking into the prison with wooden, fawning, or fearful expressions. The metal shackles on their bodies not only restrained their godly power, but also their bodies. Once they put on the shackles, anyone below the 7-sun realm would be no different from a mortal. It would be even more difficult for them to move around with things weighing a few kilograms on their bodies. 2 keys were needed to open the shackles. One key was in the hands of the inner guardian team, and the other key could only be obtained after Xia Pinggan signed it. Qi Dafeng walked around the prison while explaining the situation to Xia Pinggan. My lord, I'm innocent. Please let me out. I won't dare to do it again. I really didn't do anything. A pleading voice came from a nearby cell. A bearded man with a sallow face dragged his shackles to the side of the cell. He stretched out his hand pitifully and begged loudly. What crime did this person commit? Xia Pinggan glanced at the man and asked. This person is a suspect. A month ago, a woman was raped in her home at night. After investigation, it was discovered that it was done by a summoner. The summoner who committed the crime used a spell to imprison the women and then started the crime. The police couldn't handle the case, and couldn't catch the perpetrator, so it was handed over to the inspection department. After the inspection department received the case, they arranged for a few teams to patrol the area. In the end, a second team patrolled the area where the crime happened and found this person sneaking around the civilian area in the middle of the night. They arrested him. Once he was arrested, the woman's rape case was solved, so he was locked up here. Sir, I'm innocent. I was only following someone outside that night. I'm a bounty hunter, not a rapist. The man shouted loudly in the cell, looking at Xia Pinggan with hopeful eyes. Do you have any evidence? That rapist didn't leave anything behind when he committed the crime, so we haven't been able to find any evidence, nor have we been able to interrogate him. That's why we've locked him up here to continue our investigation. If we find any evidence, we can castrate him and send him to the court. He won't have to be locked up here anymore. Qi Dafeng's castration wasn't something he said out of anger. It was indeed the law of the Shang dynasty. Once a rapist was found guilty, the first punishment was castration. Xia Pinggan didn't say anything. He only glanced at the man before continuing to walk forward. There were all kinds of summoners locked up here. Most of them were reserve summoners and 1-sun realm summoners. There were all kinds of reasons why they were locked up here. Other than the suspected rapist, there were 3 types of summoners locked up here. The first type were summoners who used summoning spells in public or participated in fight. This was strictly prohibited by the inspection department. The second type were bounty hunters who crossed the line to complete the mission and were caught by the inspection department. The third type were those who used spatial equipment to smuggle prohibited items. The second and third type were serious enough to not be locked up here. They would have been thrown into prison after the trial. Those who were locked up here were either not serious enough to be locked up for a year or a few months with a fine. Otherwise, there wasn't enough evidence and the inspection department was still investigating. They would be handed over when the time came. After walking around the dungeon, Xia Pingan roughly understood what kind of people were locked up here. These summoners were nothing in the eyes of the Judgment Army. However, in the eyes of ordinary people and the police, these guys were definitely the most dangerous and terrifying. They were dangerous and difficult to deal with. Other than the inspection department, no one could deal with them. Damn it. How could ordinary people resist using the circle prison spell to violate a woman? Unknowingly, Qi Dafeng brought Xia Pingan to the cell where the last prisoner was locked up. When he saw that man, Xia Pingan was almost shocked by that man. In the shadow of the cell, the man sat motionless in the corner like a stone. His long hair was messy, and his whole body exuded the aura of an angry lion. He stared coldly at Xia Pingan, who was standing outside the cell, with a fiery cold and unyielding gaze. What scared Xia Pingan was that person's face. There were more than 10 scars on that person's face, as well as bumpy burns. Other than a pair of eyes that were still intact, the other parts of the person's face could no longer be seen as a human. This man is not a summoner? Xia Pingan asked Qi Dafeng after sensing for a while. Yes, my lord. This man is not a summoner. He is a high-level warrior who cultivates battle qi. He has already reached level 8 in this world. Martial artists cultivated battle qi, which was a different system from summoners. It could only be said that in a world where summoners and guns existed, martial artists lived a miserable life. They could not even be considered as supporting characters. In the world of martial artists, 8th-grade martial artists were similar to summoners in the 8th Sun realm. They were definitely top-notch existences. It would not be a problem for them to overturn a police station. However, even such a martial artist would be captured by a summoner in the 1 Sun realm with a simple spell, and he would just sit there and wait for his death. When he heard Qi Dafeng call Xia Pingan sir, the cold gaze of the silent man flickered slightly. Why is this man here? Xia Pingan continued to ask. The inspection department found this man in the dock area half a year ago. He had just disembarked from a ship. He was carrying weapons and a lot of high explosives. When he was discovered, he wanted to escape. When he escaped, he even injured 2 policemen. However, he was caught by us. A lot of explosives? How much did he carry? More than 2,000 kilograms. How much? Xia Pingan thought that he had misheard him. Therefore, he asked again. More than 2,000 kilograms. I thought it was a mistake, but I didn't expect it to be true. This person disguised the 2,000 kilograms of high explosives as luggage and carried them on his back. The explosives are still in the evidence room. What does this guy want to do in Shangjing City with so many explosives? Is he going to set off fireworks? Have you interrogated him? We've interrogated him. This man refused to say a word even if he was beaten to death. He just kept silent like a lump of iron. We don't know why such a person came to Shangjing City. He's a dangerous person and can't be let out casually. However, we can't find any more clues about him at the moment. We can't find out his identity either. So, we can only lock him up here. Chapter 245. Walala, Walala. After hearing Qi Dafeng's introduction, the man who had been silent like a rock suddenly stood up as he walked towards the gate of the cell with heavy metal shackles. As soon as that person stood out, Xia Pingan realized that the person was a little tall. He was nearly 2 meters tall, and his legs were like 2 pillars. One of his shoulders could almost stand a person. The shackles on this man were tailor-made for fighters, which could restrict fighters' battle chi. Being different than that of summoners, the shackles on the shackles were thicker than a thumb. A huge iron ball weighing hundreds of kg was tied to his shackles, causing muffled sounds when it was dragged on the ground. That man walked towards Zhang Tai silently like a furious lion or a human-shaped tank. Xia Pingan remained calm. However, Qi Dafeng and the other internal guards who followed Xia Pingan here became intense. Some internal guards pulled out their sticks and blocked in front of Xia Pingan. Qi Dafeng also put his hand on the holster on his waist as he hurriedly told Xia Pingan, "Lord, this man is very dangerous. Even though his battle qi and physical strength are restricted, as long as he approaches you, he could still pinch stones into flour. It's too dangerous. Please move back, Lord." That man walked to the front of the iron bars and grabbed the alloy iron bars with both hands. He then put his terrifying face on the iron bars, which looked like a weathered cracked rock, and gazed at Xia Pingan with icy and oppressive eyes. Xia Pingan smiled and separated the internal guards in front of him. Instead, he walked a few steps closer to the cell gate and almost touched the iron bars. He calmly looked at the person who was walking towards him. "What do you want to say to me? If you don't speak, you might be locked up for a very long time." "They're all afraid of me. Aren't you afraid of me?" That man finally opened his mouth in a hoarse, muffled and powerful voice. Qi Dafeng was so nervous that he broke out in a cold sweat. He was afraid that the man's hands would reach out from behind the bars. At the same time, he was also shocked because this was the first time the man in the cell had spoken since he was captured. "Why should I be afraid of you? If you did something bad, you should be afraid of me." "Bad things? Ha ha ha." That man suddenly burst out laughing, which caused the entire cell to shake. The man suddenly grabbed the iron bars with both hands, causing the iron bars that were even thicker than a child's arm to creak. The man's aura turned berserk as his eyes turned blood red. "Do you know what's bad? What are bad people? Would a real devil stay in a prison cell? Do you know how dirty Shangjing is? Shangjing City is indeed not very clean. There are also many scumbags outside. You don't have to say this. I can only do my best to make this world cleaner and let those scumbags receive the punishment they deserve." The man's berserk gaze was somewhat restrained. "You're very special. However, don't expect to get anything out of me." Xia Pingan carefully examined the man's face and smiled. "The scars on your face appeared once, first cut with a knife, then burned with fire. Those knife scars are not deep, they only look like they're damaged, but they don't hurt your muscles and bones. You were very careful when you cut them, and the burning scars completely avoided your eyes. Judging from these scars, the scars on your face shouldn't have been caused by an outsider, but you disfigured yourself. You disfigured yourself because you didn't want others to recognize you. You made such a big decision to come to Shangjing City, so your goal must not be small. Perhaps you didn't think of leaving here alive, right?" The man's expression changed slightly. "You brought so many high explosives to Shangjing City. You're definitely not here to set off fireworks but to do something. It's just that you feel that you can't accomplish what you want to do with your strength, so you have to use so many explosives. You're here for revenge, and the target of your revenge, the devil you mentioned, might not be an ordinary person, right?" The man tightly pursed his lips as his hands left the iron bars. Dragging the heavy shackles, he slowly retreated. Without saying a word, he retreated to the corner of the cell and sat down. He was as silent as a stone. Xia Pingan's gaze swept across the iron bars of the cell. Just now, he could already see 2 rows of clear fingerprints on the iron bars. The guy in the cell was too terrifying. Even with his strength limited, he was already like this. If his strength was not limited, an ordinary person would be as weak as an egg in front of such a person. "I'm Xia Pingan, the inspector of the Eastport Supervision Bureau of the ruling army. You can tell me when you want to give an explanation," Xia Pingan said as he turned around and left with Qi Dafeng and a few internal guards. Sir, I'm innocent. Let me out. I really didn't do anything." The man who was suspected of being a rapist was still shouting in the cell. Xia Pingan glanced at the cell number of that person. It was cell number 11. He didn't say anything and just left directly. After coming out of the cell, Xia Pingan returned to his office. When he saw Wei Meiyu at the door, he ordered her, "Find me the file of the person in cell number 11 in the underground prison. Then, call Hua Ziqin over." "Yes." Wei Meiyu hurriedly put down the things in her hands and went to get the file and file. However, Wei Meiyu soon brought the file over. It was a thin file bag. Then, she went to call Hua Ziqin. Xia Pingan was looking at the file of the rapist in his office. In less than a minute, Hua Ziqin arrived. Hua Ziqin was a little apprehensive. She didn't know if Xia Pingan wanted to settle the score with her. Hua Ziqin's eyes darted around as she arrived at the office. Her nerves were stretched taut as she was afraid that Xia Pingan would make some strange request. "Sir, you called for me?" "Yes, there's something I need you to do." Xia Pingan's eyes were on the file. He didn't even raise his head to look at her. "What's the matter? Do you know the person in cell number 11 in the underground prison?" "Sir, are you talking about the rapist that was caught?" Hua Ziqin raised her eyebrows. "That's right, it's him. Now, go find those few victims and cut a bunch of hair from each of them. You're a woman, so it's more convenient for you to do this." So he wanted her to do the work. Hua Ziqin heaved a sigh of relief, but then she felt strange. "What does Sir want the hair of those victims for?" "Bring me the hair, and I'll be able to confirm if that person is truly guilty." Hua Ziqin immediately became spirited. She straightened her back and answered firmly, "Yes, I'll go right away." During lunchtime, the people from Team 2 who were patrolling outside finally returned. Xia Pingan also finally met Team 2's captain, Long Chao, and the other members. Long Chao looked like the kind of person who didn't smile much, but was also shrewd and capable. The few members under him were also not bad. With this, Xia Pingan could be considered to be acquainted with everyone in the inspection department. In the afternoon, the people in charge of the gangs and guilds in Donggang district, as well as the person in charge of a law firm that acted as Xia Pingan's white gloves, all came to the inspection department and greeted Xia Pingan in an orderly manner. Xia Pingan first met them separately. After understanding the situation, he gathered them together and told them about his arrangements. In the conference room of the inspection department, the leaders of the 3 gangs in Donggang district and the owners of the 4 major law firms all sat in fear and trepidation. From time to time, they would look at lawyer Jiang of Dong and law firm. The leaders of the 3 major gangs and the owners of the 4 major caravans were all prepared to bleed. Before they came to visit, they had heard that the new envoy inspector had a powerful background. He was like a ferocious dragon that crossed the river. It was not easy to feed such a ferocious dragon. Lawyer Jiang was also wiping the sweat on his shiny forehead. He was also a little worried. As the saying goes, a new emperor brings in new ministers. With the arrival of the new boss, it was completely unknown whether he, as a white gloves, would still be trusted and put in an important position. He was only more familiar with the previous envoy inspector, but he knew nothing about the new envoy inspector. He didn't know how many people were eyeing his position, and how many people in the same industry were green with envy. In the morning, lawyer Jiang had already received the news that the new envoy inspector had come. Just as he was about to pay a visit and show his loyalty with a generous gift, he didn't expect Sidu Hua to directly send someone to inform him to come to the inspection department and say that the envoy inspector wanted to see him. Everyone in the conference room was a little caught off guard. Their hearts were pounding, and they didn't know what the new envoy inspector wanted to do. "I've already understood everyone's situation. I called you here today to get to know you. In the future, everyone's money and consultant fees will still be the same. They will still be handed over to lawyer Jiang." Xia Pingan's first sentence directly made the 8 people in the conference room heave a sigh of relief. Everyone's hearts were suddenly in their stomachs. The leaders of the 3 gangs in Donggang district and the owners of the 4 major law firms were happy that this fierce dragon didn't care about their thin bones. Lawyer Jiang was happy that the new boss trusted him. Glancing at the several influential figures in the East Harbor district, Xia Pingan continued, "I like money, but I don't want to earn money from the poor and the poor. It's not easy for the brothers in the Li Xing and the Carriage and Horse Company to earn some money. They all work hard to earn money. I don't want to earn their money." Hearing Xia Pingan's words, the 8 people in the conference room were all shocked. "Lawyer Jiang, from now on, you don't have to pay me the 2,000 gold coins and legal fees that Lixing and the Carriage and Horse dealership pays every month. You can open an account in the bank and deposit the money into it as a mutual insurance fund for the workers and coachmen of Lixing and the Carriage and Horse dealership. As long as I'm in the position of inspector, I'll pay out all the medical fees for the workers and coachmen of Lixing and the Carriage and Horse dealership from now on. I'll also pay out all the funeral fees and compensation for the families of those who died of accidents from now on. I've decided on the funeral fees now, so it'll be 10 gold coins per person and 120 gold coins for the families of those who died of accidents. The amount of medical treatment will be the same. The usage of the funds in that account will be supervised by the 3 gang leaders and the 4 owners of the Carriage and Horse dealership." After being silent for over 10 seconds, Li Heihu, the head of Mighty Axe Gang, instantly pushed his chair away and stood up. He then pulled out his dagger and cut a big bloody wound on his palm. Without even frowning his eyebrows, he said in a muffled voice, "I, Li Heihu, swear that if I take half a gold coin of the mutual aid fund, I will die a miserable death and die without any descendants. Today, on behalf of all the brothers of Axe Gang, I'm grateful that you think highly of us brothers. From now on, if you have any order, we brothers of Axe Gang will never frown our eyebrows even if we have to face a mountain of blades or plunge into a sea of flames." After hearing Li Heihu's declaration, the heads of the other 2 gangs in Lixing, Crazy Shark Gang and Giant Strength Gang, also stood up. Without any hesitation, they cut their palms with their daggers and made a bloody oath in front of Xia Pingan, which was almost the same as that of Li Heihu. The 4 bosses of Lixing and the law firms were a bit uncomfortable with such a bloody scene in Jianghu. However, at this moment, they could only bite their fingers and make a bloody oath in front of Xia Pingan like the heads of the other 3 gangs. "Since that's the case, it's settled then. Let's start from this month. In the future, the land of Donggang will depend on you all to maintain it together. Peace brings wealth." Chapter 246. Hua Ziqin hasn't returned yet? Xia Pingan sat comfortably on the soft and thick leather chair and drank a mouthful of the fragrant green tea that Wei Meiyu brewed. He glanced at the clock on the wall of the room and exhaled contentedly. It was the first day he came to the office of the inspectorate. After a day of torment, he finally finished all the things that needed to be tormented. "Yes, sir, you asked her to retrieve the evidence. There's more than one victim, and some of them may have moved, so they probably won't be back for a while." Sidu Hua stood in front of Xia Pingan's desk and sized up Xia Pingan's expression. He carefully reported to Xia Pingan, "That lawyer Jiang, I've already taken him to visit those security banks and security business groups. I've also told them what Sir said. Those security banks and security business groups' owners and managers actually want to find an opportunity to visit Sir personally." Xia Pingan looked at Sidu Hua expressionlessly. When did I ask you to take lawyer Jiang to visit those security banks and security business groups? Why didn't I know about this?" Upon hearing Xia Pingan's words, Sidu Hua was stunned for a moment. The next second, he felt his heart beating violently and sweating profusely. F***ck, is he trying to distance himself from me? Isn't it enough to have the white gloves and lawyer Jiang as insurance? He's collecting money behind my back and wants to throw me out as a scapegoat when something happens. Thinking of the consequences, Sidu Hua's legs went soft and he almost couldn't stand. Ha ha ha, don't be nervous. I'm just joking with you. Look at your face, it's changed. Xia Pingan suddenly laughed again, which made people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. Those people should just disappear. Even if they meet, it's nothing more than flattery. Anyway, the rules are the same. If there's a need to meet again, it's fine as long as they deposit my hard-earned money into my account every month. Sidu Hua wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and forced a smile. I'm old and can't stand being frightened. Sir, please don't joke with me like this in the future. Alright, what do you think of Lawyer Jiang? Sidu Hua calmed down. Sir, this person is the one you like. He's cautious and he's quite smart. He won't do stupid things. If Sir uses him, it means that he's useful. Even if he does something stupid, it's very easy to settle it. Xia Pingan smiled and nodded. You've worked hard today. It's almost time you can go home. It's not hard at all. It's my honor to work for Sir. Sidu Hua wiped his cold sweat and forced a smile. He carefully took a few steps back before turning around and walking towards the office door. And the rain! Of the rain tesses. Teet tss. The streets outside were still a little cold and cheerless in the afternoon. There weren't many people on the streets, but at this time, the streets were bustling with people getting off work. Because of the rain, the rental carriage business on the streets was booming. It was hard to find a carriage. Not far away, the doors of several wine houses across the street also began to be crowded. The white-collar and blue-collar workers from the banks, business groups, notary offices, various business associations, and trade representative offices on the nearby streets began to swarm out of the buildings. For many workers who had worked hard all day, getting off work was the happiest thing. Some wanted to go home, while others missed the warm and relaxed atmosphere in the wine house with their colleague. Xia Pingan had also been busy at the inspection department for the whole day. Today, he had gained a lot. He felt unusually full and long. He had met the people he needed to meet and arranged the things that needed to be arranged. Originally, Xia Pingan wanted to crack the case and establish his glorious position as the inspector in the inspection department. However, since Hua Ziqin hadn't returned yet, then forget it. He would wait until tomorrow. Anyway, the person locked in the cell wouldn't escape, so it wouldn't make a difference to wait for half a day. Xia Pingan stretched, then stood up, put on his coat and pushed open the office door. Outside the office, Wei Meiyu had already moved in and was organizing some document. Meiyu, you can get off work now. Xia Pingan took his umbrella and said to Wei Meiyu. Wei Meiyu quickly stood up. Sir, do you want me to arrange a carriage for you? No need, I will go back by myself. You should go back early too. Okay, I will go back after I finish organizing these documents. Xia Pingan nodded. After pushing open the door of the inspection department, the cold wind outside blew in, making people feel refreshed. Xia Pingan went down the stairs, went around the fountain, and came to the door. Luo Laoyao, who was guarding the door, smiled and opened the door for Xia Pingan. Just as he walked to the street outside, a four-wheeled rental carriage pulled by two black horses had already stopped in front of Xia Pingan. Baifu Carriage Company is honored to serve you. The coachman sat in the carriage, but a young attendant in a black suit opened a black umbrella, opened the door, and respectfully let Xia Pingan in. This kind of luxurious rental carriage was rarely seen on the road. In addition to the coachman driving the carriage, there was also an attendant who acted as a bodyguard. Some rich people liked to hire this kind of carriage when they first came to Shangjing. Baifu Carriage Company was one of the four major carriage companies in the Donggang district. Xia Pingan saw their owner in the afternoon. Go to Tianyuan Bridge. Xia Pingan did not decline and directly got in the carriage. This luxurious carriage was equipped with a heater, incense, a bar, and fine wine. The carriage was covered with a bearskin carpet, which was quite luxurious. The attendant and the coachman sat in the front in the wind and rain. The coachman shook the reins, and the carriage ran happily. When the carriage arrived at Tianyuan Bridge, the rain did not stop, but the sky was already dark. Since it was raining, there were basically no stalls in the night market at Tianyuan Bridge. After Xia Pingan got out of the carriage, he directly went to the jewel forest with an umbrella. When the boss of the jewel forest saw Xia Pingan enter, he hurriedly greeted him with a smile and helped Xia Pingan take the umbrella. "I didn't expect you to come here today even though it's raining. I just dropped by to have a look. I have nothing to do anyway," Xia Pingan said with a smile. "You came at the right time. I just bought 2 new realm beads. According to your request, the price is not bad. Please sit down and drink some tea. I'll show you." As he spoke, the boss of the jewel forest directly led Xia Pingan to the tea room behind the counter. These days, Xia Pingan had bought a lot of realm beads here and spent tens of thousands of gold coins. He was very familiar with the boss of the jewel forest. The boss of the jewel forest was surnamed Su, and his name was Su He. He had been selling realm beads on Tianyuan Bridge for decades. For customers like Xia Pingan, although the realm beads that Xia Pingan bought were of low to medium price, Xia Pingan was straightforward, and bought a lot of realm beads. Unknowingly, he became a super petty customer in the eyes of the boss of the jewel forest. After drinking 2 mouthfuls of tea, Boss Su came over with 2 boxes and placed them in front of Xia Pingan. He opened one of the boxes and said, "This is a realm bead of divine power. The probability of death if the fusion fails is 60%. However, after the fusion succeeds, the realm bead of divine power will increase by at least 70 points. Furthermore, the price is not expensive, only 460 gold coins. It meets your requirements very well." Xia Pingan looked at the realm bead and saw 4 Xiaozhuan characters flashing inside the realm bead. Xia Pingan's expression instantly became strange. This was Go Jian's realm bead. Xia Pingan did not have any objections to other realm bead. However, Xia Pingan was somewhat against this realm bead. Firstly, Xia Pingan did not like Go Jian. Secondly, fusing with this realm bead might be very disgusting. After Wu destroyed Yu, King Go Jian became Wu King Fuchai's follower. The reason why Go Jian was able to obtain Wu King Fuchai's trust and return was because when Wu King Fuchai was sick, Go Jian volunteered to taste Wu King Fuchai's feces. This made Wu King Fuchai extremely moved and allowed Go Jian to return. Therefore, if he wanted to fuse with this realm bead, he might have to eat feces. F***ck, why? You don't like this one? Boss Su observed Su Hao's expression and asked. "AI, let's look at the other one," Xia Pingan said helplessly. There were things a man could do and things he could not do. Forget about that realm bead. Even if you knew about Go Jian's abilities, you would not be able to learn them. Alright, let's take a look at this realm bead. Boss Su opened the second box with even more careful movements and began to introduce it. This realm bead is a rare and special cave realm bead. After successfully fusing with it, you can use a spell to dig a hole in the ground. Your speed is as fast as lightning. Digging a hole is not usually useful, but it is hard to say when it will be useful. Xia Pingan looked at the realm bead and saw 3 words on it. Uncle Inkao. Just by looking at these 3 words, Xia Pingan roughly understood why this realm bead could dig a hole. This realm bead should be about the story of Zheng Zhuanggong digging a hole to see his mother. And the person who made Zheng Zhuanggong dig a hole to see his mother was Uncle Inkao. How much is this realm bead? Xia Pingan asked directly. Although this realm bead is difficult to fuse with, the death rate is extremely low even if the fusion fails. Furthermore, the spell it bestows is very special. Therefore, the price of this realm bead is not cheap. I bought it for 2,150 gold coins. I will earn you 50 gold coins and 2,200 gold coins. That's not cheap. Boss Su smiled bitterly. Recently, the price of realm beads on the market has been increasing. I can't do anything about it. If it was in the past, the purchase price of this realm bead would only be 1,800 gold coins. Now, it has increased a lot. At this point, Boss Su looked outside and lowered his voice. Haven't you heard that the Demon Gate is about to open? That's why the price of this realm bead has increased so much. The Demon Gate is about to open? Xia Pingan was slightly stunned. The so-called opening of the Demon Gate in this world was somewhat similar to the space invasion on Earth. However, it was not exactly the same. The so-called Demon Gate was the opening of the door to the Void Secret Realm, where a large number of demons were hidden. When the Demon Gate opened, the demons in the Void Secret Realm could run out. Summoners and humans from the outside could also run into the Void Secret Realm. However, in general, the opening of the Demon Gate was not a good thing. I just heard this news from a bounty hunter who came to sell realm bead. Many people are spreading the news. 2,200 gold coins it is. I want this realm bead, Xia Pingan said and sighed in his heart. This summoner really spent money like water. No matter how much money he had, it would not be enough. Do you want this realm bead? Boss Su pointed at the realm bead that was enduring hardships. I don't want this one. Xia Pingan shook his head. I think this realm bead is very picky. Chapter 247. In the main hall, Uncle Zheng was sitting on the main seat. Although the aroma of the food served by the waiters filled the air and the ministers around him toasted each other, Uncle Zheng was still gloomy. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he didn't seem to have much of an appetite. This was the scene that Xia Pingan saw when he opened his eyes. People who didn't have a spiritual force crystal and didn't know about this period of history probably wouldn't know what to say about such a scene, let alone why Uncle Zheng was so gloomy. Zheng Zhuanggong's title was actually Uncle. The title of Duke was added after his death due to the collapse of etiquette and music. Although Zheng Zhuanggong was famous in history and had left behind many stories, he could be considered one of the famous people of the spring and autumn period. However, every family had its own difficulties. Zheng Zhuanggong grew up in an environment that was extremely lacking in maternal love. In modern terms, Zheng Zhuanggong might have suffered from maternal love deficiency syndrome. According to the analysis of psychological psychology, this was something that he lacked in his childhood. He would spend his entire life searching for it. After becoming the ruler of Zheng, his own mother lied to him, secretly working with his own brother to plot against him. They wanted to overthrow him and take everything away from him. Such a family tragedy happened to Zheng Zhuanggong. Why did Zheng Zhuanggong lack maternal love, and why his mother didn't like him? These questions could be traced back to the fact that his mother, Wu Jiang, hadn't given birth to him smoothly. Zheng Zhuanggong's name was Yi Xing. This name indicated that he hadn't been born smoothly. His head hadn't come out first and it had almost taken his mother's life. Therefore, his mother didn't like him since he was born. She even hated him. This had led to the series of events that followed. Xia Pingan looked at Zheng Zhuanggong sympathetically and sighed inwardly. Just because Zheng Zhuanggong had been born in a wrong position, it had caused a series of chain reactions in the state of Zheng. If Wu Jiang had given birth to Zheng Zhuanggong naturally and Zheng Zhuanggong's head had come out first, many of the events that followed probably wouldn't have happened. What was the cause of Zheng Zhuanggong's dystocia? Only God knew. Maybe Wu Jiang had taken a nap in a wrong position when she was pregnant with Zheng Zhuanggong. Or maybe Wu Jiang had eaten a fruit that Zheng Zhuanggong didn't like, causing Zheng Zhuanggong to flip over in his mother's womb. If one studied history carefully, they would discover the reasons behind many major events in history. They were very strange and even insignificant. This was the butterfly effect. God had used an invisible hand to gently fiddle with Zheng Zhuanggong's position in his mother's womb at some point, resulting in wars and power struggles that affected the entire state of Zheng. Not many of these men were easy to deal with. However, compared to Go Jian, Zheng Zhuanggong's family tragedy didn't seem to be much. Zheng Zhuanggong, who was sitting on the main seat. Uncle Xia. Thank you, Your Majesty, Xia Pingan said. At this time, a maid brought in roasted mutton. The entire hall was filled with the aroma of the mutton. The other ministers in the hall all began to eat, praising the taste. While everyone was eating the mutton, Xia Pingan was the only one who didn't eat. He was eating the food next to him. After a while, Zheng Zhuanggong finally noticed that Xia Pingan wasn't eating the mutton on the table. He couldn't help but ask, Uncle Cow, why aren't you eating the mutton on the table? Is it not good? Your Majesty, this mutton is too delicious. This subject can't bear to eat it. I want to bring it home and let my mother have a taste. Please allow me, Your Majesty, Xia Pingan said. Bring it to mother, mother. Zheng Zhuanggong muttered to himself. His lips trembled. He wanted to ask something. In the blink of an eye, he almost burst into tears. However, in the hall, under the watchful eyes of everyone, Zheng Zhuanggong couldn't shed tears. He just turned his head and left the banquet. After Zheng Zhuanggong left, the ministers in the hall became even noisier. Xia Pingan only waited for a while before he saw a eunuch beside Zheng Zhuanggong quietly walk to his side. The eunuch lowered his head and whispered in Xia Pingan's ear, Your Majesty wants to see you. Please follow me. Xia Pingan left the banquet and followed the eunuch beside Zheng Zhuanggong. After a while, they arrived at a garden in the palace. Zheng Zhuanggong was in one of the pavilions, standing there in a daze, looking up at the stars in the sky, his back lonely. The eunuch who brought Xia Pingan here hurriedly left after seeing Xia Pingan off. Only Zheng Zhuanggong and Xia Pingan were left in the garden. Zheng Zhuanggong turned around. His eyes were a little red and his voice was trembling. Is she okay? After He Zizi's defeat, Zheng Zhuanggong's younger brother Duan went into exile and committed suicide. Wu Jiang was imprisoned by Zheng Zhuanggong and exiled to Yingdi in the state of Zheng. Yingdi was the highest official in Yingdi. Monitoring Wu Jiang was one of his duties. The Empress Dowager misses Your Majesty every day. She regrets what she did. The Empress Dowager often tells the people around her that they are all her flesh and blood. How could they? Xia Pingan said. She really said that? Zheng Zhuanggong grabbed Xia Pingan's hand. He was so emotional that he actually burst into tears. Yes, the Empress Dowager also can't bear to part with Your Majesty. She often says that happiness in the family is the best way to vent. Xia Pingan took the opportunity to say, If Your Majesty wants to see the Empress Dowager, this humble subject can arrange it for Your Majesty. Zheng Zhuanggong's face revealed a conflicted expression. Finally, he sighed. When the Empress Dowager and second brother rebelled, this humble subject's heart was cut by a knife. I once told her that there was no way to see the yellow spring. This humble subject is known throughout the country. This humble subject is the monarch of a country. How can I go back on my words and make others laugh at me? Xia Pingan immediately said seriously, What's so difficult about that? Legend has it that the yellow spring is underground and can be seen even if you dig underground. Rest assured, Your Majesty, this humble subject will dig out the yellow spring even if this humble subject has to dig 1,000 feet underground. This humble subject will allow Your Majesty and the Empress Dowager to meet each other by the yellow spring alive. Zheng Zhuanggong was immediately energized. Xia Pingan left Xinjiang that night and hurriedly returned to Yingdi in a carriage. The next day, Xia Pingan brought his entourage to the place where Wu Jiang was imprisoned to see the imprisoned Empress Dowager of the state of Zheng. At this time, Wu Jiang was actually regretting her decision. She only had one son now. When she heard Xia Pinggan's intention to arrange a meeting between her and Zheng Zhuanggong to resolve the conflict between mother and son, Wu Jiang immediately agreed. Since both of them had agreed, the rest of the matter was easy to handle. After returning to the yamen, Xia Pinggan immediately ordered for craftsmen to be recruited. 3 days later, Xia Pinggan personally led several hundred craftsmen to Nyopi Mountain in Yingdi. Nyopi Mountain wasn't actually a mountain, but a low hill. In history, Zheng Zhuanggong dug to see his mother at Nyopi Mountain. After Xia Pinggan had a few craftsmen who knew how to dig wells check the terrain, he chose a place and had everyone dig a hole at the bottom of the hill. In less than 3 days, hundreds of people dug a big hole at the bottom of Nyopi Mountain. They continued to dig in the hole and even dug out underground water. After Xia Pinggan had the craftsmen set up the place, the job was done. A month later, Zheng Zhuanggong arrived at Nyopi Mountain. He followed the hole that Xia Pinggan dug and went underground. Once he was underground, Zheng Zhuanggong saw a ditch filled with water. Next to the ditch was a stone tablet with the words, "Yellow Springs," written on it. The pitch-black underground was filled with lanterns, brightly lit. His mother, Wu Jiang, was standing beside the underground ditch, looking at him with tears in her eyes. When the mother and son met underground, their true feelings were revealed as they hugged each other and cried bitterly. After crying, Zheng Zhuanggong wiped his tears and left behind a saying for future generations: "In the Great Tunnel, the joy is harmonious." Wu Jiang also wiped her tears and said, "Outside the Great Tunnel, the joy is also vented." Then, the mother and son walked out of the underground hole hand in hand. Xia Pinggan stood outside the hole and was about to congratulate them when the world of the realm pearl shattered. In the secret chamber, Xia Pinggan opened his eyes. This realm pearl that Zheng Zhuanggong had dug out gave Xia Pinggan's secret mandala an additional 36 points of divine power. After fusing with this realm pearl, the upper limit of the Xia Pinggan secret mandala's divine power reached 2,618 points. The 4-sun realm required 3,780 points of divine power. After the 3-sun realm, the conditions for a summoner to advance became more and more difficult. He would need at least 30 to 40 realm pearls to reach the 4-sun realm. Not to mention the success rate of fusing these realm pearls, even the cheapest realm pearl would cost tens of thousands of gold coins. More and more realm pearls would be needed in the future, and the cost would also become more and more terrifying. The Tang family's elder seemed to be a 4-sun realm summoner. The entire Tang family occupied Dawan City, but the number of 4-sun realm summoners they could nurture could be counted on one hand. Without the support of powerful resources, the 3-sun realm was the pinnacle of many summoners' lives. Xia Pinggan got off the bed and stretched his body. He looked at the stone wall in the secret chamber. With a thought, a pen-shaped jade awl appeared in Xia Pinggan's hand. The jade awl moved like a dragon and snake in Xia Pinggan's hand. In the blink of an eye, it wrote a fist-sized dig character in the air and landed on the ground. A half-foot-deep hole that was as thick as a water bucket appeared on the stone floor. This was after Xia Pinggan controlled his divine power and used only 1 point of divine power to write a dig character. If he had more divine power, Xia Pinggan was afraid that he would be able to dig a hole in the ground and flood the basement. Although the secret technique obtained from this realm pearl couldn't be used in direct combat, a skill like digging a hole could be used in a suitable place. Thinking about the price of Zheng Zhuanggong's earth pearl, Xia Pinggan felt his heart ache. Without financial resources, it would be difficult to support this expenditure. Xia Pinggan wasn't even sure if his gold coins could last him until the 6th-sun realm. News came hastily that there wasn't a single customer who had made a reservation at Duke Zhou's restaurant today. There was no income at all, so there was no need to waste any more time. After coming out of the secret underground chamber, Xia Pinggan went straight to sleep to rest and conserve his energy. Xia Pingan didn't know how long he would be able to sleep peacefully like this. The next day, Shangjing City was still cloudy and drizzling. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.